Robin finally stopped when he heard the patriarch and turned around and asked, "What do you mean, Uncle Brian? There is nothing between me and the Bradleys other than commercial exchanges and interests. I don't mean an insult, but you can't force a different relationship just because you want to." Robin kept his words respectful as much as possible because he addresses the patriarch of his family. If Mila or one of the saints with her said this, he wouldn't have stopped in the first place. Speaking of Mila and her company, even they did not understand what the patriarch was saying and looked toward him with strange looks. They all had one thing in their heads. "I don't know what he is saying, but if it was in the interest of forming a good relationship with Robin, then may the heaven help you convincing him." The patriarch was not angry at Robin's response and continued, "Just listen, Robin. This situation is not new, on the contrary. I personally have been through it a lot, and all the senior families have passed by it at least once. Taking a step from pure business between two untied families to something more is a challenge, but not impossible." Saint Edward furrowed his eyebrow slightly. These words had already given a hint of what the patriarch would say. "Well, go ahead. What is your suggestion to solve this crisis of trust?" Robin pinned himself down and prepared to listen seriously this time. There are a few methods that have been tried over thousands of years in situations like this, but the best of them is marriage. Saint Edward sighed. He was right in his prediction. What marriage? Do you mean someone in our family is to marry into the Bradleys? How would that solve it? Robin was shocked by the patriarch's answer and asked again to make sure he understood what was being said. Indeed, if two worthless candidates from the two families were to marry, then it really won't make any difference. That is why the marriage has to be of the highest caliber to secure strong ties. Robin smiled. "Oh? Why does it seem to me that you want to get yourself a young bride, Uncle Brian?" The patriarch laughed when hearing this. "Haha, I'm old. I do not have the energy or the patience for a new one, and even if I want to, the marriage of an old fart like me wouldn't be solid enough. You, Robin, you are the one who should marry from the Bradleys. Great idea. Haha, that indeed will solve everything. We have a lot of talented girls in the family. My granddaughter is a good girl, and my niece is also very beautiful. I'll bring you both." The three saints loved the idea and began to express their opinions, while Mila fell silent and looked at the ground with a long, unfocused look. And Saint Edward shook his head. He knew that was not what Patriarch Brian was aiming at, but he kept silent, hoping that the patriarch would say something else. When Robin heard the patriarch's suggestion and then the approval and words of the three Bradley saints, he chuckled and almost turned to continue his way out of the room. When the patriarch saw this, he knew what Robin was thinking and shouted at the three saints, "What the hell are you talking about? Robin is the representative of the Burton family. He has higher standing than me. And you talk about him marrying little girls? Not even an ordinary saint deserves him. Only Lady Mila can be put in the same sentence with him." When heard this, Robin, who was about to leave, stood in his place. Finally, this gained his attention. He then cast a glance towards Mila to see her reaction. Mila's unfocused gaze regained its luster and she looked toward the patriarch in shock. It was long ago that she decided that she would get to the peak of sainthood as fast as possible, then start seclusion to try and get the Fire Shard's minor law technique to the threshold of the third stage and perhaps become a sage herself. This plan will take her entire life. Thus she had never thought about her marriage before. As expected. Saint Edward sighed. "This won't be easy." Anger was clearly visible on the faces of the other three saints. "Patriarch, I think you are overestimating your conditions here. Lady Mila is the daughter of a duke. She has been the #1 genius of the kingdom since she was 10. She recently broke through to the 25th level, the same as you when she is barely 150 years old. So please don't put her down asterisk in the same sentence asterisk with anyone. Lady Mila is unique and will not be married to anyone that is lower than her in any aspect. Robin can choose any other unmarried girl, and she will be his." Patriarch Brian slapped his hand on the table in front of him angrily. "You arrogant bastard, did Galen send idiots to negotiate? You came crawling on your stomach to plead our son Robin's favor, and now you're the one acting arrogantly? Give me the name of a young man in the 8 kingdoms or 4 empires that is better than our Robin. You will never find one." Girls have to get married sooner or later, Lady Mila, no matter how many thousands of years she waits. She will eventually marry someone. Who will she choose at that time based on these high ambitions you idiots have? An emperor? You overestimate your family and overestimate your lady. Do you think no other dukes have girls to marry? Leave the dukes. Do you think if Robin proposed marriage to a princess of the royal family, they would refuse? Please listen carefully. I've offered this to you for one reason, and it is that you guys have treated Robin fairly when he stayed with you. It's an honor to you that I've offered to connect your family with the one-of-a-kind person throughout history. If you don't appreciate it, then there's no need to continue talking about marriage further. Let's continue our discussion when you find a good commercial offer for Robin. Then with Humph the patriarch returned to his seat and left them a chance to think and respond. But his angry attitude did not reveal the truth of what he was feeling. The patriarch was jumping for joy inside him that Robin gave him the opportunity to act arrogantly and distract people from a duke's family. If this was in the past, he would have gone himself to get them something to drink. One of the three saints stood up angrily and shouted, "Humph! It looks like we're not welcome here, let's go," and moved to the door. When he looked behind him, he found Mila was still standing in her spot. Looking confused, Saint Edward was still sitting relaxed with no intention to follow him, and the other two saints also hesitated. When he saw that, he shouted at them, "What the hell are you all waiting for? Are you really thinking of Mardash?" At this point he was interrupted by Mila's voice as she says, "I agree." Everyone in the room was shocked except for Saint Edward. Even Robin looked at her strangely. One of the other two saints who had not yet moved spoke to her. "Lady Mila, you don't need to sacrifice anything for the family, and you don't need to agree or disagree now. Let's go back and have a meeting with council and discuss the matter further." The look of confusion on Mila's face disappeared and was replaced by a confident expression. "No need. This is a personal decision and only I have the right to agree or disagree. And I agree." "Girl, you know you don't have to do this." Robin spoke to Emile. "I know I don't have to do anything, husband, but I want to do it." "What? Am I not pretty enough for you?" Mila replied with a charming smile and a little wink. Robin was shocked by her response. She is already calling him husband before he even agreed. This girl is more shameless than he is. He doesn't love her, but he doesn't hate her either. Robin wasn't an ascetic who opposed the idea of marriage. Even during his isolation in the cave, he used to go to brothels constantly. But marriage isn't like going out to meet girls. Marriage is a sacred bond and a solid partnership that would last forever. How can such a decision be easy? But at this point he asked himself, if he should marry one girl in the world for any reason, whether based on intimacy and feelings of closeness or to form a strong partnership with another family, or for her intelligence, beauty, talent, or strength, etc., who would she be? The answer is Mila. Always Mila. It didn't take long for Robin to realize that there was no reason for him to refuse the marriage suggestion. Everything about Mila, whether the outward appearance, age, or talent, is perfect for him, and in addition to all of that, the Bradley Duke family will be tied to him inseparably close. They will be tied to his horse. If he seeks glory, they will seek it with him, and if he falls, they will be shamed alongside him. This is not just an ordinary wedding pact. Mila herself is considered by everyone to be the next Duchess of the Bradley family and their representative wherever she goes. After a few more seconds, Robin put a big smile and nodded. If even this stubborn girl is okay with it, how can I refuse? Haha, I have no problem with the idea either. You can talk to Patriarch Brian about the rest of the details and arrangements as I do not have much experience in these matters. As for me, I apologize. I have to get back to what I was doing. Then he turned around and made his way out of the room, leaving everyone stunned. It is like they were the ones who proposed and pushed Mila at him, and he casually agreed. Well, that is kind of what really happened. But still, Mila came back to sit in her place again. She went back to her strayed look. If someone had told her a few years ago that she was going to get married soon, she would have laughed at his ridiculousness. She was not some ordinary girl that might be used to make marriage alliances. She is the lady who is destined to reach the top of the Saint Realm, and maybe one day she will get the chance to discover the third stage of her technique and break into the sagehood. bringing her family to the threshold of a royal family. But given what happened now, technically she was the one who proposed to be married off to Robin herself. Whenever this embarrassing thought came into her head, her face turned red and lowered her face further toward the ground. She was not in the mood to talk to anyone about anything. Saint Edward was the first to break this awkward atmosphere, so he spoke to the patriarch. Ahem, as long as we have the initial consent of the two lovebirds, I think we can talk again about the details of the cooperation, Patriarch Brian? Ahahaha, of course, but why are you still talking officially, Nephew Edward? We are a family now, ha ha ha. This is without a doubt one of the proudest moments in the life of Patriarch Brian, and perhaps in the entire history of the Burton family. Previously, he would never have dreamed of meeting a character like Mila and talking to her face to face, regardless of whether she married one of his family members. Negotiations on future forms of cooperation and relations continued for some time between the Patriarch and Edward, but this time things went significantly more smoothly. In the end, it was decided that the Bradley family would not pay annual research grants and would not send resources for free unless they were in the form of gifts. So none of them is obligatory anymore. The only thing that the Bradleys will still have to do of the first two offers is to allow access for the Burton to their markets and connections and help them get anything that Robin might need and the Burtons can't provide. These first two offers were attempts to lure Robin with money, which is no longer needed if they were one family. But the third offer will still have to take place, which is to help the Burton family with 5 saints. According to Robin, he does not need personal protection because there are saints from the royal family around him, but the Burton family itself is still relatively young and weak and needs a lot of support and reconstruction. Saint Edward, for example, volunteered to regroup and restructure the Burton family's army in their hometown of Jura. The army almost collapsed in their war more than a decade years ago. Only a few thousand veteran warriors remained, and they are all now in the new family's lands, previously Dolliver. So there is an urgent need to raise a new army, train and arm it to befit a family of the rank of a marquis. And who could do a better job than a genius general like Saint Edward? While the other 3 saints would work with him as second-rank generals to train and strengthen the army, and they will also secure auctions. The 4 of them would remain in Jura City permanently to their new jobs and will provide support in case there was a massive attack from the Repels on the army in the new lands. The Patriarch was not worried about giving them the keys to constructing the army at all. After a tie of this level is formed, the Burton family's strength would become an extension of theirs, and the higher the status of one of the 2 families would be with the other, so why would they try to harm them? As for the absent-minded bride herself, she would be free to go out and into the Burton family administrative zone, and even the guest house now Robin's residence, whenever she wanted to. It was also agreed that wedding gifts, wedding date, etc., would be postponed until an appropriate time appears. But the Bradle family should immediately announce to the world that Mila is officially engaged to Robin Burton, as this is the basis on which everything else will be built upon. After everything was talked about and agreed upon, Saint Edward decided that he would stay and start preparing studies to restructure the Warren Burton family's army immediately, and Mila decided that she would also remain in the Burton family for the time being, and one of the 3 saints went silently to deliver the news to the family elders. Even he himself didn't know how to tell Galen that his daughter had been betrothed. The saint arrived a few hours later at Bradley's Pearl City and called an urgent meeting of the family elders. Quickly, everyone who has a position in the family was gathered, and on top of them, of course, Galen was also present, all of them confused after they saw the saint. Everyone in here was smart enough to know the importance of Robin. Even after taking the method of making fire runes out of him, he himself was still far more valuable. Some of them attacked Galen harshly when Robin left. They has thrown all the responsibility on Galen's shoulder, saying that he ripped the fire talisman technique out of Robin, but still couldn't even protect him properly, that he allowed an assassination attempt on him just under their nose. An inner faction with a level 30 saint heading it even accused Galen of plotting with the royal family to ship off Robin to them. Robin's speech with Edward and Mila before his departure has frightened them. They saw what this kid has accomplished within the short period he stayed with them, the fire, dark, and vitality talisman within 2 years, not to mention the pills that helped Mila break through to the 25th level. Even the guy who bowed the bill at the auction was reported to have breakthrough as well. Galen was posting about getting the fire talisman technique, but what was that in front of everything else he has made and everything he will make? To illustrate how important this connection with Robin is to them, some of the elders suggested returning the fire talisman technique to Robin and swear to never make one talisman, in exchange for maintaining good relations with him. One of, if not the biggest achievement for the family, which is the fire talisman technique, has also become a potential reason for the elders' border to take his position away from him. Galen waited until the last person arrived and then anxiously looked at the saint from Jura City. "You can speak now. What happened there? Did he accept our offers?" "No," the saint replied in a hesitant voice. "Damn. I told you, Galen. These shitty offers are not enough." Everyone started shouting, angry and blaming each other. There was no need for any other questions. "Wait, I didn't finish my words. It is true that our initial offers were not accepted, but we were able to restore relations between us and Robin." The saint quickly enters. Galen, who had put his forehead on his palm and started to think of a way to secure his position as Duke already, panicked after this sentence and looked at the saint with a look full of enthusiasm. "What did you say?" "How? You bastard. Don't leave us hanging and speak directly." This. The saint hesitated a lot and started to sweat. "Speak and get it over with. And where are Mila and the rest of the group that was with you?" A high-ranking saint hit the table hard. "Elle. La. Lady Mila is going to marry Robin Burton." He said the sentence quickly and raised both hands in front of his face to defend himself against the coming attacks. But no attack came. All he heard a few seconds later was, "Ha ha ha, congratulations, Galen. Oh, I wish I had a daughter like Mila. Our resources used for nurturing her were not wasted in vain. Ha ha ha." Even those who wanted to kick Galen out of his chair as Duke sighed and shook their heads. They all knew that his weakness has turned into absolute strength. But even then they smiled after and began to congratulate Galen. This news was far too important for the family as a whole. The inner conflicts can wait. Welcoming and bless-wishing. So far the saint who came with the news and was afraid of becoming a punching bag for them to release their anger upon, has not heard a single objection. He quickly looked toward the person most concerned, toward Galen, and he found him, crying, "Thank the heavens. I was too afraid to put this proposal with the group. I was afraid that my little girl's confidence in herself would be shattered if that blatant brat refused. I can't believe that things took that path by themselves. Thank the heavens." Galen muttered in a low voice and a satisfied smile. After all, he is a father, and he has always thought about the issue of his daughter's marriage since she was still a teenager. He was always concerned about who would take his daughter from him, and not once had dreamed of a better partner for her. He was intending to support Robin with everything he got anyway to gain some approval from him and make him satisfied enough to involve the Bradleys in his innovations and future plans. That young man, when he had in his head that he wanted to punish the majestic kingdom of Dolliver that stood lofty for thousands of years, he took half a duchy from them, but now he is no longer worried about finding ways to please him all the time. He now is his son-in-law, a good husband for his daughter and a strong ally, and his position is no longer threatened. This is the best outcome he can hope for. After a few seconds, Galen gathered himself back together and asked the saint, "Tell everything from the beginning until you arrived here." Immediately after the meeting had ended, messengers from the family came out announcing in the streets that Saint Mila Bradley had been betrothed to Robin Burton. The news fell on all residents of the Duchy of Bradley like a thunderbolt. Mila is the #1 genius of the kingdom and one of its most beautiful women, got engaged just like that. And for an unknown person, Robin may be very important among the upper class of the two families in addition to the royal family, but he was definitely not known to the vast majority in the kingdom. Only members of his family know him as someone who is very lucky at adopting kids. In fact, even Caesar is much more famous than him. The news traveled as if they had wings. Within hours it began to spread outward from the Duchy of Bradley to the neighboring duchies, and then further and further. Soon it reached Jura in the Duchy of Alton. and its inhabitants were astonished and asked for clarification from the elders of the Burton family, who confirmed these rumors. That very day that started as normal for the residents of Jura City has turned into a holiday. The kingdom's #1 genius, the lady that her beauty would put any woman in the kingdom in shame, will become the wife of one of their own. Although they did not know why Robin, as they don't Robin is the source of the talismans or what this marriage really represents. Even if it is just a marriage in name between the two families, this is still wonderful. Joy, shock, questioning. Conflicting feelings swept the general public in the kingdom, as there was no one who had not heard of Mila Bradley before. But the real impact of the news was on the elite of the kingdom. Duchy of Alton, home of Duke Raymond Alton. Damn it! The Duke smashed the handle of his chair and rose to his feet when the knight standing before him told him the news. We're too late. The Duke gritted his teeth until the knight felt that he was about to smash him as well. Little did the knight know that the Duke had been arguing with his elders for a while and was trying to find ways to connect himself with the Burton family, the family that added half a duchy to them and made the Duchy of Alton the largest among all the duchies of the Black Sun realm by a large margin. He did not know anything about Robin himself, but there is no doubt that these talismans suddenly appeared in the two families of Burton and Bradley. He has no authority over the Bradleys. They are as strong as him, if not a little stronger. So his only hope is to find a way to control the Burton family to benefit from them with these talismans. Of course, without making enmity with them. He certainly did not want to find himself in the position of the Duchy of Tinley. The initial plan was for him to be a little late before he started his attempts so that his goal would not seem very clear, maybe try to start some talks when the time to receive the taxes from the Burtons come, and then he might offer some army's expertise or gifts or money or etc. But the Bradley family is still blocking the way for him. The marriage of Mila Bradley to a nameless person in the Burton family clearly shows that it is not really a marriage, but rather is there as a mere facade for Mila to control the Burton family from the inside because she has namely become one of them. Now the Bradley family is truly the sole owner of the talismans in the kingdom. These were not only the ideas of Raymond Alton but technically all the dukes of the kingdom. Having Mila Bradley as a wife in the Burton family has blocked for them the idea of trying to control the Burtons. The only option left is courting. The only ones who knew the real dimension behind this announcement were Sage Albert and a selective few in the intelligence department. This marriage was not an excuse for the Bradley family to interfere in the Burton family's affairs. Rather, it was really a marriage at the highest level. That bastard Galen. He must be dancing naked in his palace by now. Sage Albert shook his head when he heard the news. I must confess. He played it right. I wish I was as shameless as him, sigh. As for the person concerned himself, he was oblivious to all this. After that short meeting, Robin returned to his room immediately to complete what he was doing. For him, this stage is the most exciting in the research process. The process in general, no matter how different the fields he is researching them are, is divided into 4 stages. First, identifying the problem. Identifying the thing that is missing or that needs to be developed or changed, for example, when Robin knew that he needed to find something to strengthen his soul power. This was done. Second, examining the aspects of the problem. At this point, he begins to collect all possible information about the thing he wants to search for, so that it is clear to him, for example, the experiences of the extent of the spiritual sense that led him to see the pattern of spiritual strength. This also has already taken place. Third, finding a way to solve the problem. After knowing everything about the problem and gathering the necessary information, the process of finding ways to transform this information into a tangible solution that can be used for everyone, for example, finding a way to strengthen the spirit, begins. This is the next step. Fourth, write a detailed explanation technique that everyone can easily use, and this concludes the research. And the most enjoyable part in all of this is undoubtedly the third step, because then he can use all of what he knew to come up with something new that no one knew before. The sense of pride he feels whenever he finishes this stage in any research is unparalleled, and the process itself is filled with thinking and conclusions. That is what really can elevate him as a researcher. And it's time to find a solution to strengthen the soul based on everything he knows so far. 2 months passed quickly. During them Robin did not leave his room. The only thing he was opening the door for was to receive food from Mila's hand. Yes, Mila. After Mila decided to stay in the Burton family, she decided to live in the guest building with Robin and Zara. Her idea initially was to get close to her fiancé to try to change their previously cold relationship to be more warm and intimate. It's not like one of them can cancel the engagement at any time and end the matter. If this happens and the engagement breaks up, Mila will be considered divorced. So she immediately began making attempts to get Robin to love her, as now he has become her destiny, but her attempts were met with indifference. When she first came to deliver the food, he was surprised to see her, but after exchanging a few polite sentences like those between strangers, he took the food and went back to what he was doing. The atmosphere was even worse than before their engagement, and this got worse and worse for her over the next period. After a few deliveries, even the polite sentences were gone. The heartless Robin was opening the door, taking the food, and closing again quickly. Sometimes he meets her with an excited smile and sometimes with a frown, but she knew that these feelings were clearly due to something going on in his head, and not because of seeing her. But she didn't give up. She kept delivering the food and he kept ignoring her presence. The process was repeated for the first month and a half, until a day when she came, as usual, to deliver the food to Robin. She heard him laughing madly from behind the door, but after hesitating a little and was about to go back and let him continue what he was doing, in the end, she decided that she should share this moment with him as his fiancé, and she knocked on the door. Knock, knock. The hysterical laughter stopped, and she heard Robin's footsteps coming towards her. But when Robin opened the door this time, he did not take the food as usual, but came forward suddenly, and then extended his hand and grabbed her hair and pulled her towards him, and kissed her hard on her lips. Then he took the food, got inside again, and closed the door in a hurry, leaving Mila outside standing in shock. Mila stood there for a few seconds trying to comprehend what had just happened, but in the end, she smiled a satisfied smile and then turned and left. She realizes that Robin is probably pleased that he has made progress in his research, and the reason behind this kiss certainly had nothing to do with her. But she was happy that Robin used her to express himself. At least her daily attempts have finally succeeded in lifting the barrier between her and him. This kiss wasn't the only important thing that happened during the 2 months period. Outside the closed doors of the guest building, things are getting more and more complicated. The Great Jura auction was launched in a grand celebration, and all the seniors and officials of the kingdom were invited to attend this first gate to purchase talismans. It was not like any other auction ever held. This was the one and only of its kind. It was under the direct supervision of the Patriarch and Billy Burton, and even St. Edward and Mila and a few others from the Bradleys came to help stabilize such a huge event. For the first time in their history, if even for one night, Jura City has become the heart of the Black Sun Kingdom. All eyes and ears were focused there. Until this point, the word talisman was just flying around after its appearance in the latest war, but it was just gossip. No one really knew what these talismans were. At the beginning of the auction, the talismans were officially announced for the first time. So the talismans of fire, darkness, and vitality talismans were introduced to the public for the first time officially. The details and uses of these talismans astonished the minds of everyone, especially the talismans of darkness and vitality, which were not as famous as the talismans of fire. Even the fire talisman that is announced and auctioned was at the 10th level and not the 6th as they have heard. At this level, the talisman can be an excellent tool of defense for any noble who is young or unable to train. After that, the Patriarch stooped on stage and proudly announced that they also sell the spirit revitalizing pills that appeared at the Bradleys' annual auction lately, and Mila herself testified in front of everyone that the pill really had the promised effect and it helped her break through to the 25th level. The crowd went into an uproar over this. No saint in the kingdom exists and did not hear about that magical pill, the first real pill that might help a saint break through, and Mila even confirmed that for them. But their enthusiasm quickly died down and was replaced with disappointment. Patriarch Brain announced that the Grandmaster who provide the pills didn't send any third-level pill that is usable by the saints, and today they will only sell the pills of the first level in patches and only 4 pills of the second level. The crowd went into an uproar again, but it wasn't very positive this time. They did not shut up before the patriarch said that there will be third-level pills in the future, and that it will only be for those who attend all the auctions that will be held monthly and those who buy the most. After so much drama, the first auction of its kind finally started. Everyone competed to buy the dozens of talismans that were put to sell on that day, even if they didn't really need them. This was a historical event that they wanted to leave their fingerprints upon. The 4 second-level spirit revitalizing pills alone made 60,000 gold coins, and the vitality talismans were auctioned for about 2,000 each. It was unfortunate that Zara didn't make many talismans in that period, but they still achieved a net profit of 230,000 gold coins. This represents nearly 2 years of the total profits of the entire Burton family, and was earned in a single day. After the sale of the last piece of the Vitality Talisman, it was confirmed that the new Great Jura Auction Hall will be dedicated to hosting a monthly auction for the sale of talismans, which was widely welcomed by the audience. It was also announced that the Burton family would recruit old knights who were no longer able to enter the battlefields and would be properly paid, and that anyone with above-average soul power strength could come and work for the Burton family at a good salary as well. The announcement was strange for everyone. This was the first time they had heard of such strange recruiting requirements, but it was also welcomed. Many of those here knew people with these qualities in their families. As long as they can't benefit from them, sending them to the Burton family where they are paid well was the best option. At least they will have an inside information source that will bring them news of the talismans. After this day, a few people with these qualities started to silently stream towards Jura City. As for the more extreme front, the area recently acquired by the Burton family is home to tens of millions of citizens, and somehow they have to subjugate them all to the new rule with an army of 25,000 soldiers. No one anywhere would be willing to change his nationality overnight, and as simple as that, armed rebellion flared up and increased day by day. The war to subdue the rebellion became so intense that 2 of the 3 Bradley Saints joined the army in the new lands, bringing with them dozens of Bradley Knights. In addition to the 3 already existing Burton Saints there are now a total of 5. Each saint escorted 5,000 soldiers and a few knights, forming 5 independent armies, and then they moved individually to subdue the cities one by force. The numerical difference between the 2 parties is just horrible, but due to the lack of a typical army on the rebel side and also the lack of strong personals like any knight and saint with them, it balances the scales somewhat. Just the saint's presence alone should have been enough to eradicate all resistance. But something is going terribly wrong. The problem is that after killing the rebels in the cities, the people of that city become increasingly angry and reject the brutal occupier from the Kingdom of the Black Sun even more. The number of Burton army soldiers is declining at a rapid pace due to the many confrontations, as the numbers of the rebels are increasing at a shocking rate after seeing the blood of their brothers being spilled. The situation is getting worse with every passing moment. After another 53 days, Zara was drawing talismans on the floor in the main hall, while Mila was sitting beside her and watching silently. Mila started treating Zara like a member of the family ever since the engagement was announced, and she now spends a lot of her time with her. And although it is impossible to understand anything of what Zara is doing just by observing, she still observes what she is doing silently from the side after she finishes preparing the food for the 3 of them. Since she did not know anything about drawing talismans, she tried to give Zara advice in training, but every time she tried to give her advice on ways to absorb and manage energy inside the body, and other things of this topic, Zara would reply to her with a theory that was better and more efficient than what she knew. She said that all the answers came from the technique that Robin taught her. So with time, Mila came to find that she kept opening the subject just to hear Zara's opinion and get more ideas from it. It was Zara who is teaching her energy cultivation and not the other way around. Although she really wanted to see that genius technique that Zara was talking about, the technique that made the barely 11-year-old girl about to break through to the 8th level and gave her so many insights, but she held herself from the request. She decides to wait for Robin to give it to her himself. Today, as Zara was busy drawing and Mila sitting by the side as usual, suddenly a voice came, "Yo, what are you 2 girls doing?" The 2 suddenly turned their heads to find Robin leaning against the open door, smiling, and holding 2 small booklets in his hand. "Father!" Zara left what she was doing and went to hug Robin. Finally, after more than 5 months since arriving at the Burton family, Robin came out of his seclusion by his choice. "Ha ha! Good girl, good girl." Robin gently stroked her hair. It was hard to fathom what would those who participated in the auctions would think if they knew that this 11-year-old girl is the maker of everything they are fighting to buy. As for Mila, she was still sitting in amazement. How did you get there without me noticing you?" Robin laughed out loud as if he was waiting for this question, then spoke with a big smile. "I wanted to test something, and it looks like I succeeded. Hey, why don't you get up to greet your fiancé and give him a hug, girl?" Mila's face flushed red when she heard this and remembered that kiss. She looked away. "Humph, you were speaking as if you just came from some adventure overseas. We see each other every day." "Ha ha ha, all right. I'm used to having a little party after the end of every successful seclusion. It is nothing fantasy. I would just take one of the boys with me to a restaurant. But since they're not here, would one of you like to come with me?" "I'm coming." Zara raised her hand excitedly. "Good." Robin patted Zara's head, then looked at Mila. "How about you, girl? Are you coming?" "Why not?" Mila shrugged with a smile. "Excellent. I know a good restaurant Billy and I used to go to when we were kids. I think it's still open. Let's go." Crowds. Since Robin and the 2 girls around him walked out of the building, he caught everyone's attention in the administrative zone. But because everyone here has their own power or authority, every reaction was a greeting from afar and then continuing the course. But the situation completely changed when Robin exited the administrative zone. Everyone kept looking up at the legendary teacher, the gorgeous Mila, and the little prodigy Zara, all present together walking side by side. They actually do not know what Zara can do, and only a few girls of the upper class of the family see her and play with her daily, so they don't really know what kind of a prodigy she is. But after the tales of what Pion and Theo had done on the battlefield spread, and then the news of them being adoptive kids of Robin took place, they already linked anyone that Robin adopt to be an absolute genius, and she also has to be one. It's easy to imagine what happened when the 3 appeared together. In the blink of an eye, the streets were crowded with people coming from every direction, some of whom started shouting, "Robin! Robin! Robin! You are my idol, Lady Mila! Zara! You are the girl of my dreams!" The only thing that prevented all of them from approaching and blocking the path for the 3 of them was Mila's repellent aura that kept everyone at a certain distance. But with each step they took, the crowds would only increase. "You had to come to a restaurant on foot, huh?" Mila spoke annoyingly. Robin laughed, then replied, "I have to admit, I underestimated what would happen. How would I know that I am that popular? Haha. But I do not regret it either. It is not bad to engage with my people. I'd rather everyone see me among them and show me their love and respect face to face than to remain isolated in one valley while they are in another. A good leader cannot lead his people from afar." "You literally just came out of 5 months seclusion." Mila looked at him in surprise as she continued to advance and shove people aside with her aura. "Haha. It is not like I'm doing it on purpose. I am not some weirdo who likes to isolate myself. That is what I have to do to give everyone here a chance for a better tomorrow." The conversation was not very private. Everyone around them heard it. They didn't know why he isolated himself for those 5 months, but his response warmed their hearts, and the fact that the famous Saint Mila was talking to their son in a natural way without arrogance, and walking next to him to make way for him, not the other way around. This gave them happiness and delight. The rumors about Mila controlling Robin has gone viral lately. Some believed it and some denied it, but today those who denied can feel proud and take this incident as evidence of their belief. After walking for a few minutes, Robin pointed towards an old-looking, small restaurant on the side of the road. "Aha! This is the restaurant. I was sure it was still working," then headed straight for it. The restaurant was completely empty. Robin picked a table on the side and led the 2 girls there, and Mila kept her repulsive aura concentrated at the door so that no one of the crazed crowd would enter after them. There was no one in the shop but an old man with almost closed eyes and a little girl. After Robin settled on his table, he called out, "Uncle Tim, bring 3 sets of the shop specials." "Coming." A hoarse voice answered. Then the old man got up and slowly walked towards the kitchen. Very slowly. Well then, this will probably gonna take some time. Ahem. Mila. Tell me what happened around me during my time in seclusion. Robin looked at Mila and spoke. As for the auction hall, it is going well, although the same talismans are sold in the second month. They are always sold at good prices and everyone walks out satisfied. I think the total profits have reached 500,000 gold coins by now. And it does not seem to be ending anytime soon, as a few noble families from around the kingdom are buying lands in Jura City and building their own permanent residence here so that they can gather the information about the talisman sales and be a house for the big shots of their families to live in it if they came for an auction. This was an unexpected source of income for the family as well, and Uncle Brain raised the prices of the lands to the sky. At the same, he ordered to start building more inns and huge hotels to satisfy the new needs. There were a few attempts to make trouble, but Uncle Brain and Billy handled it, and the Bradleys also helped in controlling everything. No need for thanks. The royal family also made it clear that they would not tolerate any troublemakers in the Great Jura auction. Robin nodded with a smile. Good. Well, what about the boys in our new lands? It's almost half a year there. What are they still doing there? Isn't that rebellion over yet? About that. Mila's features clearly changed upon opening the topic. Robin furrowed his eyebrows and asked again. Mila, what's going on there? Are the 3 boys okay? Eh? No, there is no need to worry. The 3 of them are fine, I think. There has been no detailed report about them lately. But if something happened to them, we would certainly have been informed because their relationship with you is well known. Mile hesitated a little and then replied. Unsure of their condition? What exactly is going on there? Confusion began to appear on Robin's face. How can I tell you this? The Burton family's army there at first was about 25,000. But now, after nearly half a year of battles, their number has dropped to become about 14,000. Even after sending many reinforcements, the numbers are still decreasing. What? This isn't just a small rebellion being quelled. This is a total war. Robin stood terrified. Technically, it is. We're talking about an area of half a duchy with tens of millions of citizens. There are too few soldiers there to try to subdue that number and control such a vast piece of land. Every city the Burton army invades and subjugates, they leave behind a small garrison before they move on to the next city. But the people of that city would attack the garrison as soon as the main body of the army leaves. So we would lose troops is the invading process. And with the death of the garrisons and still can't hold to what we put our hand on. The people of Dolliver have enjoyed their independence for thousands of years and have a pride that reaches the sky. They just cannot stand the idea of submission under another kingdom by force. Robin sat quietly for a few moments after hearing this. Really a problem. If the verse turns and Dolliver occupies our lands, the people will do the same as well. I think that this is one of the main reasons that made controlling an occupied land by force for an extended period very difficult. But even though, from where do they get the organization and sufficient armament to confront our army and kill such a number of our soldiers? Mila shook her head. We don't know. The territory is extremely vast and we can't monitor everything that is going on. They're obviously getting help, but we don't know how or where. If it continues like this, Robin muttered to himself, and then remained silent. The old man and the little girl finally brought the ordered dishes. After a few minutes, Robin ate with the 2 girls in an absent-minded silence, then put 10 gold coins on the table and stood up to leave. Uncle, that's too much. 20 silver coins are enough. The little girl was surprised when she saw how much Robin had put on the table and hurried to tell him. The child's innocence put him out of his bad mood for a moment and he smiled. This food is worth a lot more than 10 gold coins. You should help your grandfather and keep the restaurant open until next time I come. Okay? Then he turned and headed towards the door, which was still crowded with people. This time, in no mood to walk among them slowly, he rushed straight towards the Burton family's administrative zone, leaving hundreds of people besieging the small restaurant as if it were a temple. Robin didn't know that with those words he spontaneously said to the girl, the fate of this little family would forever change. The Burton Family Administration Zone, the Patriarch's office building. Knock, knock. Robin, the guards told me you are coming. Get in, get in. The Patriarch's voice came from behind the door. Robin entered directly, and with Mila and Zara, he found the Patriarch, Billy, and Saint Edward also in the office. Robin furrowed his eyebrows slightly. That does not seem right. What brings the three of you together here? Robin came to inquire more clearly about the situation in the new lands from the Patriarch personally. But seeing three saints gathered in this way means that something big is going on. Haha. There is no problem here. Don't worry. We were just having a little chat about the batch of soldiers we will send to the new lands in the coming period. Billy chuckled and spoke directly. The Patriarch nodded. During the past months we have been sending a few hundred of our old soldiers every few weeks. But this obviously did not work very well for us, so we have decided to send the legion that General Edward has trained since he arrived. I told you this won't work. It is true that there are currently 50,000 soldiers under training and I have taught them the main formations, but they haven't even completed 5 months of training yet. Secondly, they do not have any categorized armaments, and they are not equipped with any talismans. What is the difference between this and sending citizens to the battlefield? Saint Edward shouted. Obviously the conversations weren't going well before Robin entered. Robin came forward and sat with them, looking puzzled. Wait a minute. I understand that there are no talismans yet because Zara is making them for sale for the nobles and not large quantities for wars. But what were you saying about armaments? Second, is gathering 50,000 soldiers that easy? Why didn't we do it before? Noble Robin, the number of those who can carry weapons is never a problem. Even your previous small lands accommodates a couple of millions of citizens. The soldiers need food for themselves and some money to send to their wives and children to be able to live when they are serving in the army. No offense here, but your family was very poor and they couldn't raise enough money to spend on the food of a medium army. Forget about giving money to the families of those soldiers. Only recently, the Burton family's treasury began to recover a little after the spoils of war, the money you brought with you from Sage Albert, and the auction profits, so now your family can afford a bigger army. Regarding your other question, good categorized weapons and armors, shields and bows, cannot be found thrown in the streets. Rather, noble families make them, buy them, or even take them from the arsenals of other families after annihilating and looting them. It's a long process that takes a lot of time. We were not able to loot any significant equipment in the recent war. All armament with the dead enemies left behind was basically in tatters, and what we have gained from the personal arsenals of the barons and Viscount Satina does not even make up for what we have lost. The point is that good weapons and armor that have a category low, medium, high accumulate over thousands of years in noble families, and it is one of the most important factors for winning wars between armies under the realm of knighthood. Imagine two people of the same level but a person carrying a wooden shield and skinny sword riding an ordinary horse, against another who wears full metal armor and a low-categorized sword and rides a warhorse. What will happen? One-sided massacre. Basically, the Burton family did not have a good stock of weapons and armor and even horses. The war 13 years ago wiped out a large part of them, and the war against Oliver also destroyed a huge part, and is still destroying them as we speak. All the Burton family stock of these resources has almost run out. A large part of the soldiers of the Burton family army in the new territories hold easy-to-break weapons and wooden shields, and there are only less than 500 war horses left. As you can see, these types of equipment are a problem for the main forces there, so what about the new forces that I am training? Of course, you can give them garbage to fight with and go to die as long as you don't care about the lives of your kin and affiliates. But what's the point in my training then? General Edward was visibly agitated. What? Categorized armaments are that scarce? But I remember that Caesar bought a high-level halberd in Bradley's Pearl City with 100 gold coins. Robin's allowance before was 20 gold coins monthly, so the weapon was worth a 5-month allowance of that of genius in a noble family. Something that no ordinary citizen can hope for, but still, something that can be bought with money shouldn't be scarce. Billy shook his head. Those weapons are most likely worn out in battles before and are sold to raise funds for the family, or maybe a soldier stole or found one in a battlefield and secretly sold it, or maybe some random knight wanted to make money so he made some trash to fool the youngsters. All in all, the categorized are no easy to find, especially real medium and high categorized weapons and different armaments can never be sold in a random store in the street, and are absolutely not that cheap. Robin was stunned for a minute before nodding. He always pondered on how that Remus guy broke Caesar's high-categorized halberd to 3 pieces. General, please understand. If we don't send them for support now, our army there will be annihilated in 2 or 3 months. What are we going to do then? We are confident that your training will save their lives to a reasonable degree. Please agree and lead them there. The patriarch replied in a calm voice and polite manner. Although Edward is younger than him, he is much stronger. Everyone turned to silence. The situation was really confusing to them. At least the soldiers who are currently in the new lands are considered elite because they fought a few battles, and they still have some categorized weapons, armor, and a few warhorses, and yet they are still dying at a high rate. So what will happen when a new army is sent without equipment, without experience, without even completing the basic training? Saint Edward rejected the idea entirely. He is not just like the rest of the saints who care about their personal training. Since his childhood, he had a special love for leading armies and inventing tactics, and he considered his veteran soldiers to be part of his family. And now he is under pressure to send the 50,000 soldiers he trained himself to their deaths. He understands the demand of the patriarch. If he does not send them now, the soldiers in the new lands will be killed, and then they will have to send the new army anyway. This was certainly not an easy decision. But the silence was suddenly broken by Robin's voice. This won't solve anything. I thought at first that it would be a simple rejection for our rule and that it will be suppressed and get it over within a few weeks. But the circle is widening and control is being taken away from us. I'm sure that the noble bastards of Doliver are interfering to stir up chaos and supply the citizens with weapons and the information. The patriarch nodded. That's definitely what's going on. But what might we do? We can do nothing but continue to suppress rebels by force. Robin shook his head. If this works, we wouldn't have been here talking about it. The small victories of the rebels obviously attract more volunteers to their cause, which will draw us into an endless war of attrition. Even if we send in the new army, it wouldn't intimidate them. It would only confirm the rebels' idea and would draw more to their cause. It will be a few tens of thousands against tens of millions of potential rebels. You are right, this is one of my fears. Our soldiers there are dying in vain. At this pace, we will prepare an army every year to be sent just to be killed. Saint Edward nodded. Silence is back in the room again. Sending armies without proper weaponry to kill tens of millions of angry citizens. It is as if a small child wants to subdue a raging bull. We don't, A voice broke the silence, causing everyone to look at its source. It was Zara. But when she saw that she became in the spotlight, she fell silent again and lowered her head. When Robin saw her acting like this, he smiled and said, "Speak. There is no reason for you to be afraid. What do you want to say?" "Yeah, we didn't occupy that land to loot it and kill its people, right? Isn't it supposed to be our new lands now? Why are we trying to kill them in the first place?" Zara spoke in a low voice as she nervously moved her fingers. "Ha ha ha. Kids are really lovely." The patriarch laughed out loud and then began to have side consultations with Billy and General Edward. He obviously didn't take her words seriously. But it was Robin who furrowed his eyebrows upon hearing Zara's words, and for a few seconds finally spoke. "She's right." The patriarch turned to look at Robin. Robin continued, "It does not matter who is pulling the strings behind this rebellion. The blood that sheds will be on our hands forever. It isn't too late for us. It is still a man-for-a-man situation. No major massacre took place. We can fix this. But if we continue to send in armies and shed more blood, we will lose the people of the new lands forever. No, we shouldn't call it the new lands anymore. But let's call it the farm as long as we will kill its citizens and steal its wealth." Billy shook his head. "It's not like we can push a button and it happens, Robin. Shall we let them attack our men there and stand still? Or do we leave them the whole land and call our army back to Jura, so they join back with Doliver and we become the laughingstock of the world? If you have a new idea, please tell us. If you hit your child repeatedly when he is young on the pretext of disciplining him, he will grow up to hate you. Even if you become nice to him then, he will still hate you. There are other better ways to discipline children, such as enticing them with certain rewards if they behave well. Everyone starts looking at each other upon hearing this, and it's clear that Robin compares the rebels to children for some reason. The Patriarch knows that Robin is unaware of the methods of war and how to rule. They have taken the land and the right to self-rule from the indigenous people of Dolliver. What would they give them to forget this? He didn't want to directly silence Robin so as not to embarrass him, so he asked with a smile, "And what can we use to persuade those rebellious into our judgment in your opinion?" Robin was silent for a few seconds. Why did he look in St. Edward's direction? What makes a weapon worth a category rank? And why are they not common? The saint was taken aback by the question that came outside the topic, but he replied anyway. The weapon is valued primarily according to the manufacturing materials. The stronger and sharper the metal from which the blade is made, the higher the value of the weapon. Of course, there are other measures like the craft itself. If you gave the same block of metal to a genius blacksmith and to a random dude, do you expect the outcome to be the same? No. But this makes difference within the same category, as you can find a 20 gold coin or 200 gold coin swords that both have the category rank low. They are made of the same material, but the strength they held are far apart. So, your question is a bit tricky, not as simple as you think. But if you are asking only about the qualification for a weapon to be categorized, then the answer is the raw material. As for the reason why categorized weapons are scarce, is that the number of knights and saints is not that high either. Of course, and those who work in the field are very few. Robin opened his eyes wide. What do the knights and saints have to do with it? The tempering of high-level metals depends on the physical strength, of course. Fire can liquefy simple metals like iron, but the swords made of such metals are easily broken in the hands of the cultivators, and the higher the level of the wielder, these weapons become more useless. As for the higher-level metals, they cannot be melted by fire. They can only be heated to become a little soft, and then the knights will bang on them, cut them, and flatten them until they form what they want. And if the metal is even more high-leveled and stronger, then a saint will have to shape it himself. Knights often form these weapons only to be used by their families. Thus why any noble family rarely sells their categorized armaments to other families. Each and every one of these categorized weapons, armors, shields, bow, etc., are considered a treasure of their own that will be inherited by future generations. As you can see, this task is long, tiring, and unprofitable for those who do it for their families, so there are not many knights who choose this direction. Or maybe they would make a few to repay their families for the support they had when they were young. Then they stop. Only a very few knights and saints choose to become professional blacksmiths, and all of them are famous. But we all know they are doing it for fame and riches, and ignoring their true inner desires. Otherwise, which saint would spend his days hitting a damn block of metal with the strength he gained by hundreds of years of training? Who in his sane mind would start his cultivation journey saying to himself, "Oh, I want to become stronger to hit a ficking hard rook"? Therefore the demand for this type of weapon never ends. It is impossible to find a family that has more than what they need. Even your Burton family that has about 6,000 years of history as nobility didn't have more than 10,000 pieces combined. A look of astonishment appeared on Robin's face, both for the many new facts, and for the love that Edward has in his heart for the blacksmiths. But then something crossed his mind and asked, "What do you mean that fire cannot melt these metals?" "There is nothing that fire cannot melt." St. Edward's face turned weird, for he was telling facts and not his own opinion. I'm only saying what I know, noble Robin, and as far as I know, furnaces can't melt most of the known metals completely, except for iron and a few metals which close in density to iron. As for the stronger metals, they hardly become soft under the highest a furnace can provide, and the degree of ductility decreases as the level of the metal increases. There are metals that even a sage-level figure would find extremely hard to temper, and other known minerals that even sages cannot do anything about. Robin furrowed his eyebrows and jumped back his thoughts, and began to nod constantly and speak to himself. "I see. Well, if this happens, okay." He left everyone around him exchanging looks, not knowing what he was doing. After about a minute Robin looked at the Patriarch. "I'm sure we still have a lot of money left?" "Yes, of course, we have spent a lot on the new army. But we still haven't even finished spending all that you brought us from Sage Albert yet." The Patriarch nodded. "Good. I want you to use that money to set up factories that specialize in making all kinds of armaments, weapons, full-body armor, shields, bow, arrows, etc. And these factories shall be built within our new territory. Huh! What's the point of setting up huge factories to make ordinary weapons when we already have plenty of those? Trust me, we don't lack these kinds of low-quality weapons. Billy was surprised by Robin's words. Noble Robin, we are debating whether to withdraw or continue the assault. Why would you get an idea to set up fixed factories that do not move in such a hostile region? They would be ideal targets for the rebels. Edward also objected. Just listen to me, build huge factories and equip them with metal liquefaction furnaces of the highest possible level. As for their ability to liquefy stringer metals, depend on me for it. The four saints opened their eyes to the fullest. This is a dangerous claim. Mila quickly asked, are you saying you could subsidize those factories to liquefy stronger metals? Are you saying you want to mass-produce categorized weapons? Robin nodded. It's probably going to be categorized as low, at the beginning at least. Maybe one day I will be able to bring this industry further, but I will have to wait until I gain some understanding of the field and until the workers get used to what they're doing. Of all the attendees, only Zara was still calm, because she didn't understand the scale of what had just been said. As for all the saints, they almost fell from their chairs. This is a brand new revolution. A new revolution that is going in parallel with the importance of the fire talismans in battles. Even a duke can't dream of such a stable supply of categorized weaponry. It is a known fact that less than a quarter of any duke's army is equipped with categorized level-rated weapons, and that is considered a lot. These weapons have been accumulated over thousands of years. This is one of the factors that put an impassable barrier between the old and new noble families. Even if the two families have the same cultivation techniques, the same number of powerful figures, the same population, the older one will still win every time. If the Burtons had a permanent source categorized weaponry. Robin, you have forget about it. I won't ask you to explain how you are going to do it. But at least tell us why you want to set up these factories in the new lands. Forget about Jura City itself. I prefer building those factories here inside the administrative zone. The patriarch muffled his excitement and asked, just build it there and place advertisements for new recruits to work in the factories, and all of them must be locals. Announce a wage so high that they cannot possibly ignore, and give them complete care for themselves and their families. Make everything about the working environment in the factories a paradise compared to everything they previously knew. It will cost a lot. Building factories to the required scale and quality alone will eat hundreds of thousands of gold coins. And we will need thousands of gold coins per month to cover the workers' expenses to be at the level you require. Billy shook his head. Robin burst shouting when hearing this. What expenses are you talking about? You were getting ready to send an army of our relatives to certain deaths. Didn't that army cost us tons of gold also? Do not talk to me about expenses. Billy gestured with both hands quickly. All right. I misspoke. But you know what I mean. We have to make everything straight before starting then regretting. Robin kept quiet for a couple of seconds then spoke. We can cancel out the expenses by selling a small portion of the manufactured weapons per month to the Bradley family and the royal family. And when our current army has enough weapons we can sell a larger share to the two partner families. Or even to the rest of the big and small families in the Kingdom of the Black Sun. As long as the classified weapons will be available in abundance. And at a reasonable price, do you think we'll have income problems? Forget about this point. Workers' expenses wouldn't be a point worth mentioning at the time. Listen, the Burtons are sincere in trying to expand our influence in lands, but our new citizens think that we are there to take revenge against Oliver. They think we only want to loot and kill. And unfortunately, the current events confirm their suspicions. These factories will be a magnet for their working class to join us and earn a lot of money and tell their relatives and friends that we really came to raise their status and not to kill and steal them as they think. Then everyone will aspire to join us and protect these factories that bring them gold, instead of trying to destroy them. Edward and Mila are still excited about Robin's announcement that he's willing to sell his categorized weapons to the Bradley family, while Billy and the patriarch sank deeply in thoughts about the suggestion. After a few seconds, Billy started to nod. This will really draw the poor locals to our advantage, as stability and prosperity are always better than war. But what about the middle and the rich classes? If there is a link between the rebels and Dolliver's intelligence, they are certainly one of the bigger families. They will not be pursued by the factories thing, and will certainly not be silent and will try to stir up strife. Shall we kill these people? No. Will you stop thinking about killing for a moment? Robin shouted. Tell me more about them. Are they nobles? Are there knights and cavalry among them? No, the noble families left the lands after signing the non-aggression pact, fearing that we would annihilate them. Those who remained are the relatively large and wealthy families, but without any law techniques, and therefore there is not a single knight among them, and yet they are our greatest danger there. They have deep relations with the Tinley nobles, and their absolute loyalty is to Dolliver, as their numbers and the power they have over the rest of the locals, and being in control of all the cities, make them the head of the snake in this war against the rebellion. Robin was silent and then said back a few seconds later, I think I have a solution for them too. What is it? Announce that if a family of over 500 members publicly swears allegiance to the Burton family, will receive a fire secondary law technique and become the new official nobles in their respective ancestral lands. Billy was surprised and exclaimed, Forget it! The method our ancestors used to break into the knighthood was flawed and was thrown aside. All the good laws we have today were bought from the royal family after our ancestors helped them win the wars to unify the kingdom thousands of years ago, and we swore to not leak it to someone else, or we will be considered traitors. Is the only problem the law itself? The rest of the idea is good. Robin asked softly. Billy was surprised by the question and looked at the patriarch, who in turn spoke. Yes, the idea is really excellent. A vast area like that needs its own local noble families to help us manage it, and we will not only suffice their evil, but we will have more men to summon to wars if we win their loyalty and make them stronger. But these are just dreams. We cannot use the property of the royal family in this way. Robin smiled. And who said anything about using the royal family's heavenly law techniques? I'm going to prepare a new fire miner heavenly law technology. That would solve the problem, right? What? You can write a technique like this from scratch? If you can do it, then write one for us. The patriarch quickly stood up. He couldn't believe his ear. Not knowing what to say, Robin was really starting to fear that the health of those around him would be affected by too many surprises. At last, he sighed and continued. Yes, I can write heavenly law techniques. The law I will write for new families will be just nearly as strong as the minor heavenly law of fire shards that is widespread in our kingdom today. It isn't suitable for me to give you such a little thing. But don't worry, patriarch. I haven't forgotten the family. But not now. For everything has its time. The minor heavenly law of fire shards. Everyone's minds were almost flying. This is the second or third strongest law in the kingdom after the minor law used by the royal family. Even saints' geniuses like Mila use it. But Robin simply said he could make another one with similar strength. And according to him, technically he promised he'd give his family something even stronger. Mila, sitting next to Robin, reached out her hand, grabbed his sleeve and pulled it gently. Robin! When Robin turned around and found her giving her such a pleading look, he burst out laughing. Hey girl, the Bradleys are also considered my family too now. Just stay obedient and don't worry. Your man wouldn't treat you badly. And Mila nodded her head energetically, obviously very happy. Robin reassures her with every passing moment that her decision to give herself to him was not wrong. Even St. Edward was flying with joy when he heard Robin's confirmation. All the anxiety and pressure he was feeling before Robin entered the room vanished. Then Robin looked back at the patriarch. Now I think the upper-class problem has been solved, and they can choke the middle class for us, so there's no need to think about them any longer. Is there anything else we forgot to mention? The patriarch returned to his seat, and then shook his head smilingly. No, you have solved everything for us. If the plan was successfully executed, we would have noble families forever grateful to us, and poor-class citizens that view us as gods. Our control there would be absolute, more even than our control over our ancestral lands. Robin nodded. Good, drag our armies over there into a fortress or two now and just make them responsible for building the factories and protecting them. Let those who rebel, and those who don't want to pay taxes don't pay. Tell the army not to care about anything that happens except for their safety. The only thing we have to watch for is not to let the rebels have so much freedom that they can freely build an organized army during the construction process. Alright, to solve this, spread the word about our plan to put the people to work for high wages and about swearing allegiance of the new nobles. This will most likely kill their will to fight for a good while. Tell me, how long do you think it will take to set up 5 factories large enough to employ thousands of workers? Thousands of workers? That's a lot for 5 factories. But as for constructing the biggest possible factories for making armaments, I think 10 months if we send a part of the army to participate in the construction. Let's say a year. In a year I promise to make it happen. Replied the patriarch after thinking a little. A year? That suits me too. Robin nodded, rubbing his chin. Alongside the factories, try to open some other smaller projects, like mines for the needed metals, and some chopping wood points to collect strong shafts for the spears and halberds. Establish some fields to feed the workers and build restaurants dedicated to feeding them. Do not buy anything or send anything from here. Everything must be local, even if it is more costly. Create opportunities for work, even if it is not needed. I think you got my idea by now. After you finish planning everything, formally announce the news that the opening of factories and the handing over of minor heavenly law technique to the new noble families that swear allegiance to us will be in a year. Also, announce that the number of noble families we need is limited and that those who leave the resistance and contact us first will be the priority to choose from. This news will greatly reduce the pressure of the resistance on our army. Haha, excellent. I have a good feeling about this. The patriarch laughed out loud. Billy, who was smiling happily at the side, seemed to suddenly remember something and asked Robin. Right, we've come to 16 people matching your specifications for spiritual strength. They take a huge monthly salary without doing anything. What do you want to do with them? Haha, we found 16 already so far? Excellent. Good that you reminded me, I almost forgot to dash. Moved Robin's hand toward his cloak, toward the 2 booklets he was carrying with him, but stopped halfway, then lowered his hand again and shook his head. Keep paying them for now, and tell them to be patient for another few months before they start their work. I don't think they would mind receiving salaries without doing anything. Billy and the patriarch looked at each other. Then Bailey shrugged. I have no problem with this. It is your money after all. Catch. Robin reached out his hand and took out a small leather bag and threw it toward the patriarch. The patriarch opened it in puzzlement and found inside 4 rings. Each pair of them were identical, and an ordinary paper filled with instructions. After checking them for a few seconds, he raised his head and asked, What is this? I call them sound rings. I have had times when I have been bored over the past months, so I would take a break every now and then to work on them. Anyway, each pair serves as an open channel of communication. If you give a ring to Uncle David in the new land and you have its twin ring here, you can send each other voice messages instantly. It would be a much more effective way of communication, huh? You'll find in the paper how to activate it, the seal required, and everything about the sound rings. I think this will help Uncle David to track the war and it will help us manage the new lands easily, and dash. And why the hell are you looking at me like that? Robin looked around and found everyone looking at him suspiciously, especially General Edward. His eyes almost popped out of their place, as he was the person who knew how devastating those rings can be in a war. Well, I think this meeting is over. Good luck, Robin said and quickly got up and headed for the door, pulling Zara in his hand, leaving everyone with their mouths still open. After a few seconds, Mila regained consciousness and dashed behind Robin, leaving the 3 saints looking at each other in silence. Robin, can you sell a pair of those rings to the Bradleys? Mila quickly caught up with Robin and Zara. She caught his sleeves and spoke in a voice full of tenderness, and even bent down a little to reveal her plump chest. Robin paused and looked at Mila's pretty face for a moment. Then his eyes slid down a little and ran into the pretty sight of the 2 slightly pink peaks, and quickly got lost inside them with wild fantasy. Robin has tasted every kind of woman in his past, tall, short, fat, small, flat, curvy. He had them all and in all colors and ages, and undoubtedly everything about Mila's body was his type. Before seeing her at the gate that day, if someone gave him a paper and pen and told him to paint a perfect woman, he would paint someone like Mila without a doubt. But he quickly shook his head and looked up. Girl. I could just go down the street and find any pretty girl. Don't you think you're asking too much for a few fleeting glances? Making those rings that make sounds is exhausting. If you want a pair like that, you'll have to do much more than this. Mila furrowed an eyebrow to look angry, but in fact, her voice became even more tender, then said, What do you mean, husband? What can this girl do for you? A big wild smile appeared on Robin's face. Let's meditate together in my room today. Come. Let's meditate in my room today, hee. Robin laughed shamelessly. It's been almost 20 years since he last visited a brothel in the village next to the cave. In that period he got too old to enjoy the beauties, then too busy to think about it. Mila's face flushed red and she hit the ground. Forget about it. There won't be any meditation before the wedding ceremony. Robin raised his shoulder and said, And that's not going to happen anytime soon. Your Highness' marriage ceremony will surely be a big event and will catch the eyes of the whole kingdom, and I'm not willing to put my concerns aside and sit down to prepare for something like that. The family also has not enough resources, no men, no free energy to spend preparing for such a big event. Mila advanced, gently grabbing Robin's arm and hugging it between her breasts. I didn't ask that you do the wedding now, but at least give some preference to your fiancé's family. Okay? Demonis, all right? I sold a pair of rings to the royal family for 20,000 gold, but that's because I promised them a big discount in exchange for my protection. I could make a pair of rings for the Bradleys for 100,000. Then he pulled his hand and continued on his way to his house accompanied by Zara, who still does not understand what meditation has to do with marriage. I can't believe you are giving your father-in-law's family 5 times the price of strangers. Mila hit her foot on the ground and yelled. Thank heavens that I like you, or else I wouldn't have given them anything. See you later. Robin laughed out loud and continued on, leaving Mila not knowing if she should feel flattered or insulted to her family. But after a few seconds, she remembered that she was currently living with him, and she followed silently. As soon as Robin arrived at his house, he told the 2 girls not to knock on the door for his incoming seclusion no matter what happened, and if one of them brought food, she would just leave it in front of the door, and then went straight to his room in which he had previously secluded himself. Barely 2 hours have passed since he came out of the room after months of seclusion, and now he is forced back again. During his previous seclusion, Robin was able to create a technique by which he could quickly restore his depleted spiritual strength. Relying on this remarkable technique, another idea struck him, and he immediately began to use it. The idea is simply, since he was able to speed up the recovery process, why not push the limits a little and increase the maximum of that energy in the human body? And this mentality paved the way for making a basic technique to strengthen the soul power. Now, given the same period of time as before, he could make more talismans and get less tired. When he tried both techniques and checked their effects, he immediately wrote them in a way that it could benefit anyone. Just like that, the productivity of the talisman makers would rise dramatically. The soul-strengthening technique and the soul-replenishing technique are still somewhat in their infancy, and the boost in soul power that the soul-strengthening technique gives a cultivator over time isn't too big, but it's still very good for its class, as what can it be compared to? It was the first technique invented to strengthen the so-called soul power. That's why when Robin came out of his room he was very happy. He intended to show off the 2 techniques and teach them to the new talisman makers that his family gathered for him, and then he could start teaching them how to draw the talismans and begin slowly to set up his own factory. But the issue of the rebellion changed everything. The idea of operating factories for the production of equipment requires the participation of thousands of workers from lands considered hostile, even if not hostile. Putting trust in thousands of people on such a sensitive process is foolish. Any one of them would leak the secrets of what Robin intends to do. There is also the problem of families who will be handed a minor law technique in exchange for an oath of allegiance. Who can really guarantee their loyalty? After taking the technique, they could disregard the oath simply by saying that they are enemies from the start, and the citizens of the new lands will applaud them for their cunning and laugh at the invaders. Even if one of them leaks the technique to the nobles of the Kingdom of Doliver, it will be a problem. There are also the potential talismanic painters. They all came for money, and surely someone will try to leak what they learned for money also. Those particular people will have talisman-making technique, soul-strengthening technique, soul-replenishing technique. They will literally grab Robin by the neck. These three branches are considered the death of the current Burton family. If one of them decides that money is more important than loyalty, everything will be over. Hence the need for new innovation. Currently, Robin has to creates a fire miner heavenly law technique from scratch to give it to the new nobles. Find a way to mass-produce weapons categorized as low-level at least. The products must at least be standard low-level categorized weapons, not some fakes, and there must be a surpass to sell commercially. Finding a solution to the problem of possible betrayal. And all of this must be done within 1 year. There can't be any delay or any defects. Should any of the three not be done before the time limit, everything will fall apart. The Burton family's forces in the new lands face great pressure from the rebels who surround them from every side. And now they will have to guard the places where the new factories are built. Even by withdrawing and gathering them in a fortress or two, this would give the rebels a chance to gather into a large army. When the news is leaked, the resolve of the great families and the poor class will be slightly shaken. But the hidden hand of the Kingdom of Doliver cannot be taken lightly. In fact, a year is already a very long time for them. For every day Robin takes to solve the three problems, soldiers will die in the new lands. After a month, Robin decided to start with the easy one first, so he devoted himself to choosing a fire miner heavenly law and wrote a technique for its first stage. For someone who wrote down techniques for the first stage of 3 different major laws, this was like child's play. After only 25 days, the technology was ready on his desk, waiting for its users. Then heading over to the second easiest task, a way to craft categorized weapons. According to General Edwards' explanation, the classification of equipment is closely related to metals used for manufacturing it, and the problem is that stronger metals need strong cultivators to form them, and therefore they are not available to arm entire armies. The main issue is that those metals are not melted by normal fire. Even if a saint using the laws of fire can melt these metals, they are still small quantities that cannot be mass-produced. That is why here comes the need for a fire strong enough to melt these metals. And at the same time, ordinary citizens can use this fire continuously without danger. This idea eluded him for 3 days, just sitting in his place not knowing where to start. He would just get up to get his food from behind his door, then come back to sit again. The subject was much easier in his head, as he intended to use the idea of talismans in some way to strengthen the fire inside the furnaces. But in practice, fire talismans are for one use, so what kind of skin would withstand such heat for prolonged periods? Secondly, even if he made it that the fire talismans are strong enough to withstand the heat, the activation seal makes it that the fire talismans become ineffective after one use. If that's the case, how many talismans should be used every day to support the furnaces? Should make a talisman factory only be dedicated to making hide talismans for the furnaces? Simply, if he intends to operate a factory that produces large quantities of weapons daily, he cannot rely on single-use talismans anymore. Therefore, after he was thinking of a way to smelt metals, he began to think of a way to get rid of the one-use policy, and a way to protect whatever the patterns are written on from intense heat. After 2 more days, specifically on the 30th day since the seclusion began, Robin opened his eyes and rushed out of his room, rushing towards the Patriarch's office. Zara was playing in front of the house with some girls her age when she saw Robin rush out of the house and pass right by her. But he was so focused that he didn't even notice her presence. When she saw him with knotted eyebrows and looking serious, she decided not to cut his line of thoughts and went back to playing. As for Robin, he was indeed confused. So many things were going on in his head that he no longer knew what to focus on. As he was walking, he heard someone calling him, "Robin!" Robin stopped and looked in the direction of the voice and found Billy waving at him with a smile. So he changed course and moved towards Billy at the same pace. Robin's serious look wiped the smile off Billy's face and asked, "Something's wrong." "Billy, it's good that I found you here. Tell me, did you start making the furnaces?" Robin asked. "Huh? No. Only a month has passed since the decision to stop the subjection war was issued. Currently, they are still building the external structure of the first two factories. As for the furnaces, we are currently assembling components for their manufacture, and it is planned to start making them soon here in Jura. Very good. Tell me, what will they be made of? Robin smiled a big smile, then quickly it disappeared and asked seriously again. All furnaces are made of iron, but the iron must be very dense in order to withstand the heat. But since you asked for the best-known furnaces, we will be lining the furnaces from the inside with metals stronger than iron, which will take some additional cost and time until the knights finish the lining process. Why all these questions? Iron? No, it won't work. Tell me, Billy, are there certain metals that can be said to have the attribute of the fire element? Metals? No, I cannot think of something like that. But there are a lot of known stones that have a high fire attribute. Billy replied curtly. He still didn't know what they were talking about. Stones? Can metal melting furnaces be built with these stones? Of course not. The least raw that can be used in building any furnace is iron, and the thickness of the walls of the furnace must be at least a foot to resist the high temperature inside, and that's for the basic known furnaces, not a furnace that can melt more than just iron as you want. If the entire body was made of just fire stones, the furnace itself would melt after the first experiment. Robin nodded seriously and then continued, Makes sense. Are there other problems with making the furnace from those fire stones than the threat of being destroyed? Billy shook his head. No, the furnaces have to be huge, almost closed bodies that can handle intense heat. There are no other requirements. This will increase my work a bit, but it's okay. Listen, Billy, I want you to start collecting those fire attribute stones and just build the furnaces with them. Don't put any metal or stone that doesn't have fire attribute. Billy was shocked by what Robin said. What are you saying, brother? That's like building a huge castle with only sand. You must dash. Robin interrupted. Just listen. Don't worry about the furnaces melting. I'll figure it out. As you wish, Billy shrugged, not knowing what to say more. When will the furnace construction be finished? Robin asked again. You asked for 5 huge factories, so each of them needs at least 5 furnaces. That is a total of 25 furnaces, and now they all have to be built of fire stones, which will take more time than expected. I don't think we'll finish the last furnace before 10 months from now if we start today. 10 months? That would do as well. We will still have a month before the deadline. Start today. After the last word, Robin turned and moved towards his house again with even faster steps. With not a moment of delaying, Robin went back to his room and to meditation, but his features indicate that he is in pain. A day quickly passed since he spoke with Billy. He didn't move a single inch yet, trying with all he got to find solutions to a situation that has become much more complicated. The primary idea that Robin reached before was to figure out a replacement for the beast hide with something else because the beast's hide could not handle continuous activation of something that is fire-related. He needed something strong to handle continuous activation, something fire-related to channel the fire attribute, something that can be used perfectly inside a furnace and handle the intense heat. And all this in consideration, what would be better than drawing directly on the melting furnaces? But he is still limited by the certain characteristics the thing written on must have in order to work. If he needs to activate a fire pattern, then he needs a fire-related material to draw on. Thus he rushed to ask the Patriarch before he went too far in his thinking. He needs something that is tough that can withstand enough heat to melt very hard metals, but on the condition that it has a fiery element for it to act as a moderator for the pattern. But speaking with Billy, it is clear that there isn't any known material that can handle such heat. Fire attribute rocks are still the best choice to receive the pattern and act as a medium, but it didn't end just like that. This raised another problem that must be addressed, a way to protect the rocks from the heat. Simply, he needs to discover a pattern in order to generate intense heat, and then create another pattern to reduce the effect of heat on the fire rocks furnaces. He needs to create something and its nemesis, then make them work together in the same closed environment. After 2 more days, he finally moved to his disk and began drawing a pattern for heat generation. A week passed in the blink of an eye, then the second, the third. This was Robin's biggest pattern to date. The pattern was too large for one scroll, After a few failed attempts to squeeze it in one scroll, in the end, he placed 6 scrolls next to each other so that he could barely make out the outlines. The 4th week. The 5th week. The 7th. Finally, after 2 full months of trying to perfect the pattern, and after Robin destroyed countless scrolls, the final form of the heat generation pattern finally took shape. On this day, Robin came out of his room with long, untrimmed hair and an incomplete beard that has a few hairless spots. Robin's new body now is about 15.5 years old. He is a teenager all over again. He already gained a few inches since his resurrection and is already as the same height as Mila. His voice thickened, and his facial features are becoming more manly with every passing day. He would actually feel embarrassed seeing himself going through this again, if not for the fact that he is too busy to notice. He will keep this process of normal aging until he reaches adulthood, then the body will begin to devour cultivation energy partially instead of just life force, which will slow down the aging process. Zara was sitting in meditating position at this moment. The past 3 months have been extremely busy for her, but also extremely beneficial. She has been very busy making new talismans and pills daily, but not even close to as pressed as before. Now she doesn't have a certain quota she needs to meet like before when she had to prepare the monthly talismans for the Bradleys and the Burtons. Now whatever she makes goes to the auction house to be sold. So even if she made 1 talisman daily, it would be all good. That, and as she gets stronger, her soul power strengthens as well, and the number of daily talismans she can make with the same effort would only increase. She still worked hard to make more money for her new dad, but at the same time she now had time to play with her new friends and cultivate in peace. During the last 2 months, she reached the 8th level of energy cultivation and started laying the foundation toward the next level. But at this moment, as she was cultivating, as usual, she was surprised as she heard the sound of steps coming her way, and shortly after, Robin appeared coming towards her with messy hair and red eyes. But before you could ask him what's going on, he spoke first. Take these 6 scrolls are one big pattern that will be used to draw on a large project soon, and it will have to be done from the first try without any mistakes. Go to Billy too and tell him not to send the finished furnaces to the factories. There are many adjustments to be made on them. They should not leave Jura City before I give the order for them to leave. Yes. Zara nodded straight away. After the brief conversation between Robin and Zara, she ran to find Billy to tell him the new orders. While Robin rushed back to his room again to finish what he has to do, the heat generation pattern may have finally taken shape, but the job of operating the furnaces is still far from over. What is finished was just a single part of the final picture. For example, the heat generation pattern is available now and Zara will begin to practice drawing it on papers and hides of different attribute beasts with ordinary ink to raise her success rate and do not mess up when she draws it on the furnaces. But when the moment of actual execution comes, how would she draw it on the firestones? What she will be drawing it with? What would be used to activate the pattern? And how is the pattern will be hidden after it is finished to prevent the spies from seeing it? These questions were previously answered in the ordinary talismans, but writing on hides is not the same as writing on stones, and hiding patterns inside stones is definitely not the same as hiding them inside beast hides. Although he would have to invent everything from scratch again, it was easier for him this time because he had a strong base of researching in this field from before, or that was what he initially thought at least. It actually took him much longer than expected to get 2 aspects of them done. The hides suck whatever ink put on them, which make it much easier to deal with, unlike any stones or metals which require many different ways to get the patterns to merge inside them. Within 3 weeks he was able to reach special formatting of firestone powder and plant sap that also had fire attributes to be used as ink. This formula will be able to travel further inside the rocks and even some metals and have deep connections to it. And was also able to make the seal required to hide the pattern completely inside the rocks. Already 3 months and almost 3 weeks have passed since the start of the race against time seclusion. But he didn't try to take a break. On the same day he started preparing the 4th section that would be added to the heat generation pattern, the power source seal. Since the beginning of his talisman road, Robin has invented 2 types of seals as sources of power for the patterns. The first one has the ability to store energy inside it and then activate it all for once, after which it disappears. This type of power seal is not suitable for multiple usages, as in the Talisman of Fire. The second is a higher rank and more difficult to make. It is the source of energy in the talisman of sound, which can be activated many times and then return to its original form to prepare to be activated again. But this type can only be activated for a very short period, and then it will have to be left for a while until it is reformed to its original form for it to be used again. Can't be used for a prolonged period inside the furnaces. And it is not suitable for use with a pattern that might cause damage to the hide used as a medium, such as the talisman of fire. It also decays with time. After like 100 or so usages, the seal inside the sound talisman will collapse and the carrier must get himself a new one. These two seals won't work this time. Robin needs a seal that can stay active for long periods without the need for a time off, and also needs to withstand pumping a large amount of energy to generate enough heat to melt the tough metals. And at the same time, it must save on the amount of energy it needs. If the seal required a large amount of energy from, say, a saint or even a high-leveled knight, it would nullify the importance of the project as a whole. So in the end, the seal must be able to convert low-level cultivators' energy into the pure energy used by the heat generation pattern, plus it must remain activated all the time without the need for a rest, plus its operating power requirements must be low. And this is difficult. Although the design of the seal is a redesign of the old seals and a correction process only, it still took Robin 5 weeks to complete. In the end, the result was a seal that needed a relatively little, steady amount of energy to stay on all the time. A level 10 cultivator, for example, could keep a melting furnace running for a quarter of a day without problems before needing a break to refill his dried-up energy. But then someone else can take his place and keep providing the seal with its needed energy supply, thus keeping the furnace running all day long. A person below the 10th level can try to operate the furnace, but the period in which he can operate it will be less. Of course, for example, a person in the 5th level can operate the furnace for a quarter of an hour. All in all, the new seal was like an open gate that is ready to receive cultivators' energy all day long without a break or a need to be closed. Under normal circumstances, of course. The furnaces have basically no requirements, just a few low-level cultivators can switch between them to activate the furnace and rest all the time. So when he finished putting the finishing touches on it, Robin was so proud of the seal that it was beyond description. Almost everything he had made so far in this seclusion is a new invention under his name. But this particular power supply seal made him swim in his imagination. It opened for him an infinite world of possibilities. But he quickly slapped himself to get himself out of thinking about the future, put aside the design of the seal, and then went back to sitting in a meditative position in the middle of the room. His mission isn't over yet. The operation of the furnaces consists of 2 parts. The first is to provide enough heat to melt high-quality metals, and this has been fully discovered. And now the method of protecting the furnace itself from being melted due to the heat it produces. With the end of the 5th month and the beginning of the 1st day of the 6th month of his seclusion, Robin began to search for the strangest thing he had to invent, which was to find a way to restrain his own creation. 5 days quickly passed, and Robin didn't move an inch from the start. The food outside his door changed every few hours without him taking a bite. Mila worried a lot about him. As a level 10 cultivator, Robin could handle himself without food for a few days, but now he did not have to. The 6th day passed. The 7th. Mila's patience was running out and she was about to knock on the door when Zara caught her hand in mid-air and begged her not to do it. Finally, on the 8th day, Robin opened his tired eyes and a slight smile appeared on his face. It took him a few minutes until he managed to push his emaciated body to stand, and with difficulty, he took a few steps towards the door, opened it, and found fresh dishes that were still steaming. So he pounced on them in front of the door, still as if he had seen food for the first time in his life. Then he entered and closed his door again. The 2 girls were so excited at the next change of food. At least now they are sure he was okay. But they didn't know that Robin was even happier than they were. The patterns he drew to this day were merely imitations of real patterns in nature. His role was only identifying, researching, cutting out the most useful piece of the original pattern, and putting them on paper. But no matter how many days he squeezed his head, he could not think of a natural pattern that could protect the stones from intense heat without killing the effect of the heat-generating pattern. His final solution was, if there is no such pattern in nature, there is no need to take it from nature. After a few days of meditation, Robin decided to assemble a new pattern from the pieces of different laws he had studied. The new pattern he had to draw was not like any other. He was not just taking a piece of a large 3D pattern and redrawing it on paper to be just two-dimensional as usual, but literally creating something that didn't exist before. Part of the pattern of the major law of fire, with part of the pattern of the major law of darkness, and part of the pattern of the major law of wind, with several small parts of other minor laws to connect them all together. This is the hybrid pattern total reflection pattern that Robin came up with in his meditating days. The main idea is that the pattern redirects the heat that falls on the walls of the stone furnace back inside of the furnace. This way there will be no conflict with the heat generation pattern. Each of them will work independently from the other, and also there will be no heat lost unnecessarily by leaking through the walls, which is also a major addition. To put it in a simple way, this pattern will keep the walls of the furnace cool at the normal room temperature, while hell burns inside. The basic idea seems feasible, but the implementation was never easy. Robin is trying to connect the pieces of the scattered patterns together by taking the master law of darkness as the main body because of its absorbent and repulsive properties. The process of solving the puzzle to produce a perfect new workable pattern took him 3 months. But in the end, he had what he wanted, the first hybrid pattern he produced in his life. He didn't have to worry about how to hide it in the rocks or how to activate it because he had already found the method before in the heat generation pattern. It would just require additional energy to activate this one at the same time as the heat generation pattern. Now a level 10 cultivator can only run an improved furnace for 3-4 hours max. But it was necessary and inescapable. Aside from that, it took him 2 whole weeks to create a good formula to make the ink needed to draw it, as he needed to put in mind all the attributes he put in this hybrid pattern. Finally, after 7 months of hard work, the method for making categorized weapons is over. Now that the high-ranked metals could be melted, the categorized weapons could be made. It doesn't matter if they will be top-notch or not. At least the army will have weapons and shields that won't break easily, and it will be considered an additional way to make money for the family. That's not even talking about what these factories would do to the lives of the citizens of the new lands. Robin was very pleased with himself when he wrote the last line on the ink formula. He's taken a big leap in his research, and the whole world will take a big leap forward when the results of this research come to light. He was so pleased that he rewarded himself with an unusual reward. He brought the food that had been left in front of his door, and ate normally without haste. Then he went to take a shower and shave his beard. The subject may seem trivial to any common person, but these are really considered luxuries since Robin entered this miserable seclusion. Even sleeping, he does not sleep more than 4 hours a week, which is very apparent if anyone looked at him as the color around his eyes turned black from the severity of exhaustion. Even as he was trying to slow down and not rush, all these rewards took him about half an hour to finish, and then he went back to what he was doing. When he started this solitude, he had 3 goals. Creating a technique of a secondary law of fire for the new noble families. This was done within the first month. Creating a system to manufacture classified weapons. It took much more than expected, but finally, this was also completed within 7 months. Finding a solution to the problem of potential betrayal. This is its time. The time available is 4 months. It's ironic that Robin ranked his works based on how difficult they were in his opinion. Yet the second hardest problem took 7 months, so what about the third and hardest? How much time would that take him? But that is how it is. He did not choose this time limit, or it is safe to say that he has already pressed his luck by asking for too much time. If his mission turned into a failure and couldn't complete the last task within the given time, he can only rely on fate and hope for the best. He can theoretically implement what he has now and get the initial plan done, but giving them his work with a 100% chance that at least one of them will hand it to Dolliver? Well, this was not very wise. Finally calming himself down after a panic attack right after he started thinking seriously. Information leakage. Eavesdropping. Betrayal. All of this stems from the character. What can he do to prevent something like this? Will he have to assign someone to watch everyone he deals with? And who will watch that watcher? Physical supervision, threats, etc. are useless. If it works, someone could have thought of something before. There is one thing Robin relied on when he put this point in his head. The soul. The body is just a machine that moves according to the wishes of the soul, The proof of his understanding is that the soul can remain in the form of wandering ghosts, but the body will rot after the soul leaves it. If any threat or physical control won't work, then what about a spiritual threat? Robin has accumulated a reasonable understanding of the soul power during the first 5 months after his return to the Burton family, and his intention is to build on this good ground of understanding to begin to understand the soul more and more, maybe to the point where he can try to influence it. Influencing the soul. Forget about a limit of 4 months. This insolent idea would not have crossed anyone's head even after another 40,000 years. Robin knows very well the extent of his arrogance in his thinking, but his foundation on which he depends is that the soul power comes as an extension from the soul itself. If he can strengthen this soul power, does it not mean that this strengthens the soul itself indirectly? And isn't strengthening the soul can be considered as influencing it as well? If he can influence it one way, why not try another? With this mindset, Robin began research based on the soul and how to influence it, and quickly a week passed. During the week, Robin was inspired by a few ideas. His main problem was to reach the soul itself so that it could begin to affect it, but he began to firmly treat the soul sense as an extension of the soul itself. Thus he began to treat it as the soul. A second week passed. Robin's suspicions began to be confirmed. Natural energy is not an extension of the body, but the soul sense is definitely an extension of the soul. On the last day of the second week, the door was knocked on for the first time after a period of 8.5 months. Robin was not angry at this but was surprised. The 2 girls certainly wouldn't bother him without reason. So he left what he was doing and went to open the door and found Zara. He asked directly, "Is there a problem?" And if at first glance he almost did not recognize her, Zara finally reached puberty, and during the 7 months since he gave her the orders to deliver to Billy, she had noticeably increased in height and began to show some femininity. When she saw Robin's surprised look, Zara was embarrassed and looked at the ground and spoke quickly. "Sorry for disturbing you, father. There has been an envoy from the royal family who has been waiting for you for more than a month. We have tried to prevent him from cutting your seclusion since then, but it gets harder with every day passing. And it appears that he cannot wait any longer." "An envoy of the royal family? This is... Aha! It's been over a year since I met Sage Albert. Damn, the days go by so fast." Robin smacked his forehead. "Shit, I forgot to figure out keys to any law." Robin stood at the door thinking a little, and then walked out of the room. "Well, where is that envoy?" "He is waiting for you in the reception room. He's sitting with your wife, and he said he won't leave the house until he sees you." "Which wife? I'm not married yet." Robin looked at Zara with puzzlement. That's how Mila introduces herself in front of people now. She says that she is your wife." Robin didn't speak anymore. He shook his head with a smile and headed toward the reception room. "I heard someone wants to see me?" Robin directly entered the reception room. There was only Mila in it, and in front of her sat a strong-looking saint. With one glance Robin was able to tell that he is at level 26. "Robin!" Mila stood with a wide smile when she saw him coming. This was the first time she had seen him in months. Robin nodded at her with a smile and then turned back to look at the saint, who was still sitting and looking angry. After the saint looked at Robin from top to bottom at last, he spoke in a tone that was full of arrogance. "So you are Your Majesty Robin, huh? You didn't just ignore the delivery date of something that concerns the royal family. You even dared to make those clowns stop me and make me wait for more than a month. If it wasn't for His Highness Albert commanded me not to cause trouble, this wouldn't have gone well. Come on. Hand it over what you got and let me get the hell out of here." "You!" Mila has put up with it a lot the last period and didn't try to respond so as not to cause problems for Robin. But that person crossed all lines. Robin did not reply immediately but stood in his place looking at the saint as if the words were not directed at him. His attitude infuriated the saint greatly. "What are you impudent looking at? Take out whatever scroll you have to hand, so I can get out of this swamp." Asterisk whatever scroll asterisk. When Robin heard that sentence, he was sure of his previous thinking, that the saint had no standing in the royal family and knew nothing about him. Or perhaps Sage Albert did not tell anyone about the issue of law keys in the first place. Robin was on the verge of turning around and going back to where he came from when he glimpsed out of the corner of his eye the sound ring in the saint's hand. Then he finally spoke again. Can I take a look at this ring for a moment? Oh, you can tell that this ring is unique? But, humph, don't waste your time, boy. It's a treasure that you don't even deserve to look at. Look away or it will be tainted by your eyes. I can't believe you were thinking of touching it. Mila sighed and shook her head. She finally understood why that person was behaving so rudely. He didn't know who was standing in front of him. Robin smiled. Then please use the ring to contact Sage Albert and tell him that Robin would like to speak with him through the ring. The saint was shocked at hearing these words and suddenly stood up. You? How do you know what this ring can do? A spy! Then he quickly advanced, stretching out his hand, trying to reach Robin's neck. But halfway Mila stood in front of him and released her aura in full. Listen here, you disrespectful thing. I respected you because you are older than me, but if you keep your bullshit, I wouldn't even care that you are from the royal family. Don't even think of leaving this place alive if a hair from Robin got harmed. Robin standing behind her could easily compare the aura of the two of them, and although Mila was a whole level weaker than the other guy, her aura was almost equal to him. If a fight started now, the winner wouldn't be clear. It seems that describing her as the number one genius of the kingdom did not come out of nowhere when Robin came to this conclusion. A slight whistle escaped his lips. When Mila heard this whistling coming from behind, she didn't know if it was an admiration for her strength or her, but in both cases her face turned red and lost the anger that she was showing. She turned her head a little. Would you focus a little? There is a saint who wants to attack you. Haha. He is just a fool. This guy wouldn't dare attack me and go against the orders of His Highness. He just wants to act a little arrogant to make up for the humiliation of waiting during the previous month. Robin laughed. You! The saint was agitated, but he didn't dare to confirm his intention to attack. He really didn't dare. Would you just talk to His Highness? Please don't forget that he sent you to me. I'm not just a random guy from the street who is asking for this. Try, you have nothing to lose. Robin shrugged. Robin's last words made him think a little about the consequences if he were to speak seriously, and also made him smile at the thought that if he was lying and was not standing enough, the sage would give him the green light to punish him. He passed his energy into the seal and began to speak. Your Highness, are you there? Your Highness. Yes, I will speak. I know very well that your time is tight, Your Highness. That boy to whom you sent me to take a scroll from him, he asked to speak to you through the seal. Yes, it is that Robin boy, the little guy who looks like a spy. Please give me the orders to. Yes. Yes. He quickly took off the ring, then walked past Mila and gave it to Robin with an angry face. Robin took him with a smile and passed his energy, then spoke directly. Hello, Your Highness. It's been a while since we had a chat. I apologize for making your representative late here. He then heard a voice in his ear that no one else in the room could hear. Haha. It's okay. It's okay. No hard feelings. I know you are a busy man. Have you prepared what we agreed on? Sigh, honestly no. The last period was so stressful and I completely forgot about preparing it. Robin. That was not our agreement. The voice became visibly stern. Robin rubbed his forehead for a couple of seconds and then replied, I have two solutions available at the moment. One is to give me an extra few months, and during that time I'll be able to discover a key to a minor heavenly law technique. Or I can hand you a whole minor heavenly law technique right now which is as powerful as the Fire Shard's minor law technique. A little stronger, actually. It was not easy for me to make it. I was saving it to my Burton family and was going to distribute it to our new nobles to tie them with the family. I'm sure you know how it is. This is why, if you choose this choice, please note that this minor heavenly law technique won't be exclusive to the royal family. What do you think? Those around Robin heard nothing from Sage Albert, but they sure heard every word Robin said clearly. Especially the saint from the royal family opened his eyes to the full of them after what he heard. Complete minor heavenly law technique as powerful as the fire shards. What was he talking about? A complete minor heavenly law technique ready with the same power as fire shards? Is that even a question? Of course, I'll take the technique. We intend to award the techniques to our close nobles anyway. I have no problem with giving them to your family's nobles. Just make it only between the Burtons and those under your rule, and don't make it public to the rest of the kingdom. The enthusiasm was evident in the sage's voice. This is much better than handing over mere keys. King Philip has not yet completed writing the first technique. He got its keys 13 months ago, and he would not be a surprise if he took another year or so to complete it. Robin severely underestimated the time needed to translate the keys to techniques, as the king have to go through those keys and get some level of understanding of the minor law himself before trying to write the technique. And the technique Robin chose to give him was not an easy one at all. It would be great to have a new complete minor heavenly law technique without the king having to lock himself trying to figure it out. Excellent. You saved me a lot of time and trouble. There is one more thing. The person you sent to take the technique interrupted very important seclusion and obstructed my ideas of making a new technique that I intended to share with the royal family. Because of him, my work will be delayed for weeks, and I may never reach to where I got ever again. Also, now he tried to attack me. He was reaching for my neck. If my Mila had not protected me. Sigh, is this how you treat the friends of the royal family, Your Highness? Zara laughed out loud upon hearing this. Even Mila chuckled in a low voice. She knew this wouldn't end well for the saint. What did you say? I told that bastard to treat you like his ancestor and don't cause trouble. Sigh, please don't blame him. He doesn't even know our agreements. He doesn't even know you are the ring maker. Nobody knows anything but me and His Majesty. I will make up for this misunderstanding with a 250.000 gold coin grant to support your research. What do you think about this? Sage Albert was really pissed off hearing about his man's actions from Robin. Even Galen was smart enough to stick to Robin's thighs by giving him his daughter, while some idiot from his side go and insult him. Hey, I don't know if this little money will compensate me for the technique that I lost track of because of the interruption, or the psychological harm I suffered from your man's attempt to take my life, but if you think that this amount is appropriate, who am I to object? You are not quite there yet, but who am I to object? Haha, that is indeed much better. Always live doing business with you, Your Highness. All right, I will pass the ring now to its owner. See you later, Your Highness. When Robin finished his last words, he threw the ring at the saint, who was still standing in amazement. His Highness wants to speak with you. The saint picked up the ring, sweating heavily, and quickly passed on his energy. How can I serve you, Your Highness? I was just... Yes. I know that. Yes, Your Highness, I surely will a dash. He didn't finish his last word until he suddenly fell silent. His face appeared as if Sage Albert had told him that his mother had died. But he didn't stay there long, but came forward and gave a complete bow to Robin. I apologize for my arrogant behavior. The saint was almost crying. He literally didn't know what was happening. Sage Albert yelled at him and told him to apologize and behave politely towards Robin as he behaves with him. He didn't give an explanation or anything. He left the saint to his imagination. Robin looked at him with a look full of pity. He wasn't angry with this guy. What Sage Albert will do to him when he gets back is enough. Even if the sage doesn't punish him, it's enough that live with the memory that he forced the royal family to pay a large sum of gold coins because of his actions. Robin then nodded and spoke. Wait here, in half an hour I will make a copy of what you want. If you don't mind waiting for me again, of course? Ahaha. Please go ahead. How can this little one mind? Please be careful on your way back to your room. The saint's transformation shocked the three. Zara couldn't hold herself and laughed so loudly that the saint felt like he wanted to kill himself. Robin didn't bother with him any longer and then looked at Mila. Can you call Billy for me, please? I wanted to tell him something in the incoming weeks anyway. It is a good time now that I already broke my seclusion. Mila nodded. No problem, and vanished. Then Robin turned and went back to his room to make a copy of the technique, leaving the saint who is still processing why the famous Lady Mila was taking orders from this boy. Half an hour passed quickly. Robin returned to the reception room, hugging quite a few scrolls and books, and found the same three individuals waiting for him. Plus a new one, Billy. Haha. You finally showed your face, Sleeping Beauty? Billy laughed out loud when Robin was coming in cuddling the scrolls. Tisk, his supremacy there, the handsome prince, is the one who woke me up against my will. Let me take care of him first, then we will talk about our affairs. Robin replied sarcastically. But the handsome prince definitely did not like the sarcasm. He just stood politely while moving his eyes strangely between the two. Billy raised his shoulder. It's okay. Do your thing. Robin threw everything he was hugging on the floor, then picked up one of them and passed it to the saint of the royal family. That's what you are here for. After you take it from my hand, you only leave it again in the hands of His Highness Sage Albert. Do you understand? Yes, of course I understand. The saint held the scroll with both hands. Of course, he knew how valuable this scroll is. He has his own assumptions after Robin's responses to the sage, but whatever was in it, it definitely was anything but common, since it made even Sage Albert act like this. I'm sure you brought 500,000 gold coins with you? Robin asked. The saint nodded. They are in my carriage. I was told to give them to you after receiving the scroll. I will fetch them at once. The saint spoke quickly and turned around to move. Wait. Led you carriage towards the patriarch's office and hand it to him. He will know what to do with it. Also, when Sage Albert sends the compensation for your offense to me, hand it to the patriarch as well, or to that guy. Billy, you should remember his ugly face. Robin pointed at Billy, then continued. If it is not you who will come again with the compensation, then tell the next person to do it. Please don't take me out of my seclusion again. If someone else came and demanded to see me again, I will complain to the sage about you again. When the saint heard that the royal family would pay compensation for his actions, a shiver ran through his body. The sage would certainly not let what happened today pass. Yes, I will do that. Is there anything else you want? The saint restrained himself and asked. Nothing, stay safe on your journey back. Robin gave a big smile and pointed towards the door. The saint almost passed out. Today was one of the most humiliating days of his life, but he decided not to make matters worse. So he nodded in the direction of Robin and walked out silently. After the saint left, Robin rubbed his chin for a few seconds, then spoke. Talking in the ring in front of others is quite awkward. Some changes need to be made. After he walked out, Billy shook his head with a laugh. Haha, what are you on about? I don't know what happened before I came here, but watching your way of treating that man was hurtful. At least respect his age, you rude bastard. Just because someone came out from his mother's womb before me, it doesn't mean that I have to respect him. Respect is earned. Whatever, let's get to the point. Is there anything I should know about the situation in the new lands? How many of our kin died so far? Are the factories built yet? Robin found himself a chair in front of Billy. Sigh, the situation is not very good. Even with all our precautions, at least 3,000 men were killed during the last 8 months. We chose the places of the factories to be far from each other to cover all the new lands for 2 reasons. That is, to influence all the inhabitants and not favor one place over the others. The other reason is to use the factories' frontage and fortify them to be our own castles there. The categorized weapons factories are very important and need to be their own fortresses, and of course we can use them as bases to run the new lands. If the rebels knew our plans to build some kind of castles on their land to solidify our defensive position, they wouldn't let us build 1 block. And according to this, we went back to dividing the army into 5 battalions with each saint leading one of them in order to protect the factories that are currently being built. But this caused the armies to become subject to sieges and attacks from rebels daily. If the 5 saints were not there, our armies would have been annihilated a few months ago. Another reason for our success in keeping our lives so far is the inability of the rebels to mobilize large forces. And this is because of the spread of the news as we agreed. There is great anticipation in the new lands. Most of them want to see what will really happen on the last day of the year that we announced, especially all the major families. They have left the rebellion systems, at least apparently they no longer have anything to do with it, and this weakened the rebels significantly. But let me tell you something, Robin, if the time runs out and we don't keep our promises, I'm afraid we'll say goodbye to those lands forever. Robin nodded repeatedly. I think this is expected. This is the best outcome we can hope for right now. Just make sure to pay good compensation to the families of the deceased. Did any of the big families out there try to reach out to us in order to receive the law technique and pledge allegiance? Billy nodded. 3 families have reached out to us in secret. They are the unofficial rulers of 3 major cities, and they have been persistent supporters of the rebellion. Frankly, I am uncomfortable dealing with them. I think it is a trap to steal the technique from us, then they will stab us in the back. How are the boys? Are they doing well? Robin changed the subject. Billy shrugged. I think you can say that 2 weeks ago they burned a rebels' gathering point to the ground and killed a few tens of men. One of them was a 12-level knight. There shouldn't be any knights in the new lands after the nobles escaped. And now they are starting to show up. I think you know what that means. 3.5 months left. Huh? I will see what I can do with this much time. All right, let's get back to what I called you for. I have a new assignment for you. Robin was a little lost in his thoughts, but his eyes quickly regained their luster and spoke. Of course, no problem. How can I help? Billy leaned forward slightly from his seat and replied. I need thin metal tablets that are roughly a foot long, and they must be made to be indestructible with ordinary means. Robin spoke seriously. Surprised by the request, Billy was expecting him to talk about something about furnaces. He asked, a foot-long rectangular tablets of thin metal. How many tablets do you need? And how do you define indestructible exactly? Everything is destructible, Robin replied. I want as many as you can make. At least 10 tablets before the limit if 3 months from today. And when you're done, bring them here and leave them in front of my room. And you should arrange for a permanent production line of these tablets in our factories too. As for how indestructible they should be, just use those hard metals that only high-level knights can forge. I just want them to stay around for a long time. Billy shook his head. That would be hard. All our high-level knights are in the war or incapable of making something like that. We would take a while to find a blacksmith to make them. Maybe I can get you 3 tablets before the deadline. Robin refused immediately. Do not waste time. 3 are as good as none. Didn't you say that there were a lot of knights who came and started taking wages from us after we announced our need for people with strong souls? Make them work with you on this task instead of sitting idle and sucking our blood freely. I think that will work. I'm going now to start the production. Is there anything else you want before I go? Billy nodded. Yep. Grab this. Robin picked up one of the rolls from the floor and tossed it over to Billy. Here's a list of the resources needed to upgrade the furnaces. After you gather the needed amounts of them, bring them here for Zara. And after a month from today, come take her to the furnaces. She will start drawing on them and preparing them with my new creation for the categorized weapons production. When she tells you she has finished one, you can send it directly to the factories without consulting me. She will be responsible for determining this. He pointed toward Zara. Billy was astonished and said, Oh? You want to turn the furnaces into big talismans, then? I'm looking forward to what they can do. Naming the furnaces after their modification as talismans don't seem right at all. And I can't say that I will draw patterns because there are also seals that will be drawn and other things may be added in the future. I will think of another name for the same method of drawing later. Reuben scratched his head as he spoke. The thought of naming something huge as a talisman seemed strange. Ha ha ha. I didn't understand a word of that. But good luck with the naming. Bailey nodded. Then he looked at Zara. We'll count on you, little niece. Then he disappeared silently from the room. After Billy was gone, Robin went back to the stack of rolls and took 3 rolls from it, containing the power source seal, the one with total reflection pattern and the concealment seal that will hide everything inside the stone. Then passed them to Zara. You must have memorized how to draw the heat generation pattern by now. Practice on those 3 for the next month. The heat generation pattern will be drawn on the outside of the furnace, and the total reflection pattern will be drawn on the inside. The power source seal and the concealment seal will be used with both. Just the ink will be changed between the 2 patterns. After the training month is over, use the resources that Billy will bring you and modify the furnaces. I will depend on you for everything. Do you feel capable of that? Yes. Zara nodded vigorously. This was her first time taking on an entire project from the start and without seeing Robin make something like it first. That was a huge upgrade for her. Haha, good. Robin laughed and rubbed her head. Then we turned toward Mila and threw 2 booklets and a scroll toward her and said, You seem to be free these days, make copies of the 3 of them. The 2 booklets have to do with spiritual strength training. And the scroll has a fire minor law technique. Don't let any creature other than you and Zara see them. If you do well, I will consider giving a copy to your family. Mila was shocked. She didn't even know how valuable whatever that was in it, but was content that Robin had chosen her to make copies of something that he considered a secret, so she smiled and nodded straight away. Robin then looked back at Zara. After completing the exercises for the month, take a copy of the 2 booklets from Mila. It will help you a lot in completing the drawing of the furnaces quickly, especially the soul replenishing technique. There is no need for me to teach it to you, you are smart. When you read them, you will understand everything on your own. Is everything clear to you too? The 2 girls nodded immediately. Good. See you in a few months. Then he turned Robin and went back to where he came from. Phoo. Robin took a deep breath and then let it out slowly. It's time for the real test. Over the past 2 weeks, Robin has focused on researching the origin of the soul and finding solutions to prevent potential betrayal. Although he is not yet close to the answer, he feels that he is definitely on the right track. What he has found so far is that the spiritual sense is an extension of the soul, and there is no doubt about this. The next step now is to find a way to manipulate the spiritual sense. And in this same line of thinking, Robin continued his research. 2 weeks passed, 3 weeks. The research was progressing more smoothly than Robin had expected, perhaps because he had spent so much time researching soul matters earlier. Reuben confirmed that manipulating the soul sense is possible, and began to search in the soul patterns for something that could be used to take the next step. In the 6th week, Robin found a certain pattern in his spiritual sense aura. No matter how much he studied this particular pattern, he could not find any use for it. It is like the pattern was just there sitting idly with nothing to do. But Robin knew that there is no way a pattern can be useless. After observing it for many days, it seemed as if everything else revolved around this small pattern and related to it. At this same moment when came up with this conclusion, he came out of his seclusion and asked Zara and Mila to show their spiritual senses. Both of them had read the soul-strengthening technique and soul-replenishing technique by now and well understood the term soul compressing to create an aura around the body, which is exactly what they did. Robin searched for that strange pattern in them, and he also found it in the same place with the same essential qualities, but with slight differences in shape. After staring at the 2 girls' patterns and then his own for a few minutes, he opened his eyes to the last of them and ran back to his room shouting, "This is it!" He left the 2 girls behind, staring at each other in wonder. Days passed quickly. Only 7 days left until the promised day. Billy hasn't moved out of the guest house in 2 days already. He couldn't even sleep for a few days now. He just walks up and down the reception room nonstop. During the recent period, Zara has completed the modification of the furnaces one by one successfully, and they have already been sent to the factories in the new lands. A few problems occurred on the way as the rebels tried to block their road and hijack whatever they have, but the Burton family soldiers were able to fend them off and deliver all the furnaces safely. But the general situation has not improved much. The good thing is that the closer the promised day gets, the more the rebel attacks would calm down. Until recently, there were no significant attacks against the Burtons like before. But also, as the promised day approaches, all the soldiers of the Burton family feel that the space is tightening around them, the suffocating calm and the looks that the citizens give them, and the cautious behavior of the big families. All of this indicate that the rebellion has not subsided as it seems on the surface. Rather, it has been put in a state of idleness so that the crowd can see what their new rulers intend to do on the promised day. And if they couldn't keep their promises, those tens of millions of people will... Well, no one wanted to think about that. In fact, according to a report of a snitch of the locals, he said that the leaders of the rebellion wish that that day would come quicker. They say that it is impossible for a lowly family earl to give the public so much money to work in factories, or even to give the big families a minor law technique. They are preparing for it and want the real spark of rebellion to be the day the deadline expires, when the true face of the invading Earl family shows itself after their despicable plan to buy time and play on the people's weaknesses fall apart. They wish for the moment when an official from the Burton family comes out and says that there have been problems and that they are asking for another period of time to do more preparations. The furnaces are in the factories, and Mila has made several copies of the minor fire law technique that Robin created. Almost everything is ready, except for one thing: Robin's orders. All of this was his plans and his creations. They can't do something without consulting him, at the last possible minute at least, they wouldn't take a step without orders, nor Billy would force Robin to leave his seclusion to give it. The Burton family's army in the new lands raised their alert levels to the max. The Five Saints issued orders for every soldier or knight out there to return and get ready for the storm and took the 5 major factories as defensive centers. During the past year, General Edward completed the training of the new army of 50,000 soldiers. Although armed with rusty iron weapons, it was still a standard trained army. And now they are all in a position of high alert at the border between the Duchy of Alton and the Duchy of Evern, ready to join the battles if Robin didn't give the green light before the time is up. The only thing that didn't stop Billy from sending in the army yet was that a week ago Robin opened the door to his room, took the metal tablets that were in front of his door, and closed again silently. Although he didn't say anything, at least he seemed to be making progress. 5 more days later, just 2 days before the promised day, Robin's door finally opened again. When Billy heard the sound of the door opening, he couldn't wait to see if Robin was really going to come out to him. But he rushed in with all his speed and stood in front of the door in the blink of an eye, grabbed the shoulder of Robin who was about to put his foot out of the room and shook him, as he shouted, "What the hell took you so long? Yesterday I ordered our new army to move, and they are now on their way to the new lands." Robin raised his hand and slapped Billy's forehead hard. "What does that have to do with me? I'm out before the deadline. Don't blame me for your recklessness. Get out of my way." Then he stepped out of the door, and under his armpits are 9 metal tablets. When he reached the living room, he greeted Mila and Zara who came after hearing the noise, then asked Zara to prepare something warm to drink, after which he put the 9 plates next to a chair and sat waiting for Zara with a smile, leaving Billy who was still standing glued to him and looking at him in like a hawk, waiting. When Billy couldn't take it anymore, he spoke. "Robin, you are my friend and you know how I feel about you. But God, you are making me want to strangle you right now. Haha, I think I have heard something like that before. Sit down. By my calculations, we still have 2 days, right? That's enough for you to go to the new lands, and there will even be a few more hours left to make whatever preparations you want and get back that army you sent. Come enjoy some drink and say goodbye to the world as you know it." Robin smiled as he spoke. "Eh?" Billy was taken aback at what he was hearing. Something that can change the world in Robin's perspective is definitely not something seen before. He then moved and pulled a chair and sat face to face with Robin, then asked, "What do you mean?" Robin picked up one of the tablets and threw it at Billy, then said solemnly, "These are the tablets I asked you to make. I've used as a medium for some soul-related patterns and a few seals that I've created over the past few months." "Oh? Things related to the soul? What do you do exactly? And did you not find a name other than the talismans yet?" Billy flipped the board left and right. "No, I haven't found a name yet. And let's get to the point. When you accept a family's request to join us and receive the technique, you must request that 10 elders of the highest standing among them put their hands on the board and pass their spiritual sense through it. Then swear that * they will do everything they can to prevent the technique from leaking out of their family, and they will remain loyal to the Burton family for 1,000 years *. Okay? I think 1,000 years is very appropriate. Ahem. And if they break the oath, they should die. Is that all?" Billy was surprised. "That's all," Robin replied with a smile. Billy remained silent for a few seconds, then asked hesitantly, "You have caused us to wait all that time for you coming out, and for us to make all those defensive preparations in case if you failed, and at the end you came out with this." Billy was simply not convinced. He was surprised by Robin's words that this had to do with soul when he first said it. But in the end, it all turned out to be a way to scare the masters of families. The smile on Robin's face vanished, and he grabbed another tablet and threw it with all his might into Billy's face, and shouted, "Understand, you hopeless idiot. It is not some trick. This is the real deal. If the one who took the oath breaks it, he will really die." Billy dodged the tablet that was about to smash his face, but he couldn't dodge the words that smashed his very being. What did you say?" Billy couldn't digest what had just been said. "Listen carefully this time. These tablets have the ability to recognize and remember the imprints of the souls and will preserve a portion of a person's soul power within them. and will memorize the oath and keep it registered with their soul prints and soul power. That imprint and small soul power will remain in constant contact with the master soul. And if the person breaks the terms of the oath, the pattern will automatically carry out the punishment. If someone swore that he would prevent the technique from leaking out but later allowed someone to do it, or for example he knew that someone did it and decided to forget about it and do nothing, the soul imprint will guide the soul power back to the master soul and enforce the punishment. He will be a dead man before he even knows it. This. Billy couldn't help himself. This was so strange and so cool. He asked excitedly, "Can you tell me more about the oath tablet?" Robin nodded. The oath will stay active until the time limit in the oath is overdue, or when the tablet is destroyed. This is why I chose hard metal tablets as a medium, so that they would not be easy to destroy with the passing of time and thus lose the imprint. But nevertheless, the tablets are still vulnerable to destruction if they fall into the hands of an average-level knight. If a certain amount of damage is done to the tablet, then the oath will be of no importance anymore. So I advise that after the completion of the oath swearing process, hide the tablet in an extremely safe place. Throw it into a sea or dig a hole in a mountain and throw it there. Let it disappears forever. The death penalty is only one option. You can choose any other punishment that the soul may cause, for example going insane or losing memory for a specific thing. But of course, for something important as an allegiance oath for a period of 1,000 years, the death penalty is the most appropriate for it. And if one of them dies, then you make another elder take the oath. Always have 10 of them under the oath. Each tablet can take 10 different oaths. The same person can swear for 10 different things, or 10 different people swear upon it. The important thing is that there are 10 empty slots to store the oath with the soul print in it. As I told you, you should make 10 elders from each family that wants to be subordinate to us to swear an oath for allegiance and several other things. And I said 10 people at least because in the beginning very few will believe what you say about the oath, and a good number of them will probably die before they are come to their senses and know with who are they dealing with. When you choose a family to be one of our new nobles and make 10 of them swear allegiance, don't make them swear an oath on the same tablet, but each on a different tablet, so that if something happens to one of the slates we don't lose control over the entire family. Another important thing, make sure that the oath they have to say is perfect in a way that there is no room for loopholes. The tablet has no eye to see what a person does, then decide for itself whether the person has betrayed the oath and deserves punishment or not. Rather, it is activated when the person himself believes in his heart he is about to betray the oath. This feeling is an involuntary thing and no one can control it, but if the oath is full of loopholes, the person will do the thing with a reassuring self and therefore the punishment may not activate. Meaning, if you make someone swear not to tell someone something, they may go and write that thing. That way he might not think he is betraying the oath and the punishment may or may not be activated. Therefore, the oath should be more careful. For example, make her swear not to leak that thing to anyone. This word is more comprehensive and the chance of activating the punishment will be much greater. Of course, all this talk about the tablet destruction and the loopholes must stay a secret until they find it themselves one day. You should only say that the oath is eternal and unpreachable. That kind of bullshit. Is everything is clear so far? Clear. Clear. Billy nodded very slowly. His mind was still racing at the things that are now possible with this tablet. Rather, his thinking swam a little farther to extend to the needs of the rest of the families around the world. No doubt all of them would pay anything to get a tablet like this. Even Mila on the side was sitting with both hands on her mouth and her eyes wide open from the shock of what she heard. Everything said now. It will change a lot around the world. Leaving aside all of Robin's other innovations, the oath tablet alone could make the Burton family one of the richest in the world. When Robin found Billy absent-minded and his mouth started to run dry from drooling as he chuckled as if he was dreaming, Robin got up from his seat, took 2 steps, and then with a slap, he smacked him at the back of the head. "Where did you go, clown? Come back to reality." Ouch! Billy quickly wiped his mouth and looked at Robin with furrowed eyebrows. Hey. Robin chuckled at the scene, then went back to his seat and asked, "What's up with the 3 boys? Anything new?" "Tisk, I know I'm a few months younger than you, but at least respect the fact that I'm a saint now." "Never mind. The 3 of them broke into the knighthood together 2 months ago. Their abilities took a huge leap in every aspect. The reports say that they dueled with knights of the 14th level and were not defeated by them. What little monsters you trained for us. Robin, Uncle David says that, after their breakthrough, he had the whole army on the defense. Except for those 3. You wanted to train them there, so the saints there are treating them differently in this matter for you. They would go out every day to find and exterminate the rebellion gathering spots. Most of the time these operations are done secretly between Peon and Theo, but when the rebel gathering is more than a certain number, the loud boy would join them in the party and have the barbecue begins, while Peon fanning the flames. Literally. Haha, I would pay to see that. What I'm trying to say is that they are the spearheads for us there. They even killed 3 enemy knights so far in their raids, and their respect among the army reached heights that can only be compared to saints. Robin nodded with a smile. Everything is going well and according to his plan for them so far. Billy continued, Robin, can't you train others like the 3 of them? If you have the ability, it would be a shame if you don't. If we had a bunch of knights this strong, what would we be afraid of? I've been thinking about it for a while already, but I was afraid that my law techniques would leak. I took that risk with Peon and Theo because I had no other choice, but I honestly was nervous as hell doing so. I was even planning to make a few more little generals like the 3, but I didn't want to take that risk again. And I also got interrupted repeatedly because I had to make the talismans for the Bradleys, and everything that followed. But I think the oath tablets will make everything easier from now on. I will give it more thoughts. Robin nodded repeatedly. Then he remembered something and raised his head to look at Billy strangely. What are you still doing here? Go to the new lands and do your thing. Haha. Okay. Billy laughed loudly, then stood up and walked over to the tablets, picked up the 9 of them from the floor, and was about to leave. Then Robin shouted, Wait! Why are you taking the 9 tablets? How many families have reached out to us so far and are fit enough to receive the technique? 14 families contacted us, but there are only 7 who have real weight in the new lands. They have thousands of members and many cultivators between the 6-10 levels. They will have a good future with a little push from us. The rest are just useless. Take 5 tablets then. Tell you what, take 6. Leave the rest to me. I need them here. But more families may come, protest Billy. Then I'll make more tablets for you then. Listen, I just got out of my seclusion and I don't intend to go back for a few days. Leave me 3 boards and get lost. Billy sighed. You stubborn bastard. All right. If I need more, I'll send a message to the Patriarch via Uncle David's ring. Robin was astonished. I gave you 2 pairs of rings, a pair of them with the Patriarch and Uncle David. How about the other pair? Why don't you have it? Billy shrugged. The other pair is with the Patriarch and Duke Galen. Our Patriarch has become so cute with 2 rings on his finger, haha. With Galen. Robin said it as if he understood something and looked at Mila. Mila finally came out of their initial shock with this look and exclaimed, Why are you looking at me like that? It is you who have arranged this, didn't you? You couldn't wait till I make a pair for your daddy. Robin asked Mila with a raised eyebrow. I only wanted my father to know how much it is useful first. You can't just ask him to pay 100k gold coins for something that he doesn't understand. Is it my fault that I advertise your rings for you? Humph. Mila replied and looked away, seemed angry. Billy burst out laughing. Haha, truth be told, Mila had a hand in the matter but not entirely. Patriarch Brian and I also agreed so that we could ask for resources and aid easily. Actually, a lot of the resources you wanted, we got them from the Bradleys. The other reason is, of course, that your fiancée communicates with her father easily as well to make her feel at home. Robin raised his shoulder. You didn't get money from Galen for that ring, did you? TSK, never mind. I gave you the rings and you can use them as you like. Go on now. You have a long journey ahead of you. Billy nodded with a chuckle and then disappeared from the room. Mila finally found the right moment to bring up the topic and didn't hesitate. She directly spoke. Robin, for those tablets, forget it. I won't sell you anything for the time being. Robin shook his head hard and went to get the 3 tablets and started moving towards the door. Mila didn't lose hope and ran after him. So what about later? You have already given me your word about the sound rings. Promise me about the tablets too. Please, my father can pay so much for you for one of those. Robin stopped on his way, and after a few moments he looked at Zara. Go ahead and tell your uncles to gather for me people of the innate high soul power and send them to the conference hall. I'll be waiting there. Okay. Zara nodded and left quickly. As for Robin, he sat down and looked at Mila up and down with a sly smile after they were alone. Mila immediately felt a shiver running through her body when she saw this look. What do you want? Ah! Hearing his words, Mila quickly stepped forward and slapped Robin hard across the temple. Mila controlled her strength to not hurt him badly, but nonetheless, the blow was strong enough to knock a weak knight out. With that, Robin rubbed the place of the beating, laughing. I'll take that as a no. But God, you should start wearing more unrevealing dresses. Have a little mercy. Then he started moving again towards the door. Mila also followed him closely again after a few seconds, but silently this time. She knew she can't beat him at his game. 2 minutes later, the two of them arrived at the conference hall inside the administrative area. Every big discussion that might change the course of the family would only take place here. It's a classified, almost sacred place that only the patriarch can arrange for its meetings, but still, Robin decided to use it in a whim and just walked right to it. Robin greeted the guards with a smile and entered directly without anyone trying to stop him. The hall was completely empty, with only a large oval table in the middle. Robin quietly walked over and sat on the chair at the head of the table. Mila also brought a chair and sat right next to him at the head of the table, which made Robin laugh out loud. Within a few minutes, people of different ages began to arrive at the conference chamber one by one. Everyone who entered saw Robin and the beautiful lady sitting next to him quietly, and they all thought that they are like him and were summoned here, but they arrived before him. Some of them, after arriving, found a chair for themselves and simply sat down. Some of them decided to stand on the side, closing their eyes. Some of the more social ones started little chats here and there, and some of them even wanted to remove Robin from the main seat and sit in his place. But Mila's oppressive force made the words stuck in their throats. Within an hour, the total number of attendees reached 54 people. Some of them were young men who had not yet reached the knighthood, and some of them were old knights that seemed they would die there and then. In fact, this was their first gathering. They all came because of the announcements, but when they arrived and found out that there is nothing to do, they just sat in their assigned houses. And day after day they began to deal with those around them as new citizens in the city of Jura. The wages, information, and their other needs were delivered directly between them and the Burton family, so there was no real official socializing between the candidates unless it was by chance, until today. After another half hour, 2 more people arrived, and with them a strong knight. He nodded at Robin with a smile and said, 56 candidates. They are all here now as you asked, Robin. I will be out of the conference hall. In case you need me, just call my name. Then he went out and closed the door behind him, leaving the hall surrounded by a stifling atmosphere. Everyone was looking at Robin strangely. Of course, they have all heard of the name Robin, who is held in high esteem by the people of this city for some reason, the puppet that Lady Mila Bradley chose to control the Burton family through, but it was the first time they saw him. But even if he has a high standing, what gave him the right to gather them and sit at the head of the table in such a way? They were all Jeanses and knights, and he is a freaking puppet. Is the patriarch of this family looking down at them to such a degree? Furthermore, if this is Robin, then that strong woman sitting next to him is Lady Mila? A young man couldn't hold back his curiosity and asked. Mila did not reply with words but nodded, and this gesture was enough to turn the atmosphere of the hall once more. Respect, fear, anticipation. A lot of questions ran amok in their heads about the reason for Mila's invitation to them, and the reason for the insolence of the Robin who sits next to her as if he really was her fiancé. The looks of contempt were very blatant. Then the looks of hate soon followed. Robin chuckled after this scene and looked at Mila. Do you see what your presence has done? I wanted a nice discussion with them, and they are already judging me before I even speak. What brought you after me anyway? One of the knights was about to jump on Robin to strangle him upon hearing this, and some of the old people smiled as if they could already see Mila slapping him. But he soon heard a soft voice. I can't hold myself. You have been away for months this time, my dear. Let me stick with you for a while longer before you go back to your work and forget about me again. Mila's words fell on the heads of those present like a thunderbolt. The message did not reach them all in the same way. There are those who think she is acting, and there are those who think that she is playing a game. But it definitely made them all think more, and even if she was joking, this made them respect Robin a little more as the man who jokes with such a woman. Robin smiled when he saw this. These are the faces he wanted to see from the start, which is also why he let Mila come with him in such a private and important matter. Sometimes borrowing some influence doesn't hurt. And he really wanted to give her thumbs up. Even though they didn't agree to do this, she spoke along with him and didn't fall back. At least her intelligence isn't falling far behind her looks. Robin chucked at her reply and shook his head, then turned to face the 56 men and women who were staring at him. And at this moment he finally directed his speech at them for the first time, as he said, "Gentlemen, please take a seat at the table. We have a long day ahead of us." The candidates looked at each other, and then the people standing at the side began to come and sit at the table as well, one by one, until none of them was left standing or chatting between themselves. Robin quickly found himself in front of 56 people of different ages and genders, and all of them were looking at him in different ways. After the last of them sat down, one of the elderly knights took the lead and spoke. "Robin Burton, I have heard that name a lot during my time here. They say you the wise teacher or something like that. I didn't and still don't quite understand that. But you seem to be an interesting character. May I ask why you have requested our presence here in such a hurry?" Robin smiled a big smile. "I hope you are not used to getting paid without doing anything after so much time. You are not paid because your presence honors the city or something. You guys didn't forget that you are here to work for the Burton family, right?" The slight smile on the elderly man's face disappeared, and replied, "Of course we haven't forgotten. Is this why we are here? We will know why we are here today. Then why are you here too? Why didn't the patriarch of the Burtons come?" The other candidates started nodding. All of them came from different families, backgrounds, and powers. Dealing with them and controlling them all at once requires a strong man to take responsibility. Why did this Robin person gather them? They have accepted this elderly to be their temporary unofficial leader because of his standing in this situation which represents them all. Except for one of them who yelled, "What are you talking about? Uncle Robin has a huge standing in our family. And Patriarch Brian has said a few times that Uncle Robin's presence is equal to the patriarch's and even more. I hope everyone restrains themselves more in front of the family figures that pay your wages." This was Anthony Burton, in his 20s, a level 9 energy foundation cultivator, and the only young man in the family other than Robin who had a soul stronger than average. But unfortunately, his words were not taken seriously. The candidates looked at him with disgust and some even with arrogance. It is clear that this guy is some fanboy who got planted between them to boost Robin's standing. Whatever standing Robin has in the family, how could it be like that of the patriarchs? That old elderly who had spoken previously replied again, "Huh, the enthusiasm of the youth is lovely, but how can we take your word for it? If this man is equal to the patriarch, then have your patriarch come and say that himself, then we will listen to him. I'm afraid I will still have to insist on the patriarch coming to tell us what we have to do and dash." At this point he couldn't add a word. An enormous pressure fell on his head. It was too strong that he felt his entire life is passing right in front of his eyes. All the candidates felt the pressure that was fixed on the elderly man. He is the strongest of them, and he looked like he is about to pass out. If the same pressure was focused on the weaker ones between them, it would undoubtedly kill them. There is only one person in the room who can generate pressure like this, and they all looked at her fearfully. After a few seconds, they heard a laugh. Then Robin spoke. "Enough, Mila. Their concerns are legitimate." I was about to reply to him. "Why did you do that? There's no need to frighten them all, or they wouldn't like us any longer. You should have said that earlier." They all thought the same. Robin let Mila take down the elder for long enough before he reacted. How could this guy say that with a straight face? Doesn't he know any shame? With a humph, Mila deprecated the pressure, allowing the elder to breathe again, then added without looking at him, "When Robin speaks, you listen. He represents not only the Burtons but the Bradleys as well. I advise you to humble yourselves from now on." When Robin heard this, he chuckled in a low voice and didn't say anything. But the words had entirely another form of impact on the rest. That was a dangerous statement. But if there is one person who can rightfully make this claim is the daughter of Duke Galen Bradley and the wife-in-law to the Burtons. No one said another word. Even that old man who took the lead started counting his breath and didn't speak again. They all waited for what Burton and Bradley's representative would say. Even if it was against their will, Robin waited for a few more seconds to make sure everyone was silent and accepted his position. Then he started speaking. You all must know the Burton family's relationship to the talismans that appeared on the world stage lately? Everyone nodded. How the hell could they not know? The first time it appeared, the Burtons ripped half a duchy from Dolliver, and the only auction for the talismans in the Eight Kingdoms is here in Jura City. Robin smiled. Good. Well, this is not really hidden after all. Haha. Let me ask you, what would you say if I told you that you are here to do something related to the talismans? What? We will make talismans? Isn't an old man in a mountain somewhere making them and using you to sell them? It is impossible that we foreigners are here to make talismans, you stupid pigs. He certainly means something else. One of the stronger knights said sarcastically. Yeah, calm down, guys. He most likely means that we will work on moving them for their original position to here or guarding them in the auctions. Why would they need those with strong souls for something like that, genius? Robin, please elaborate. Robin's words did not go unnoticed. He finally sparkled their interest. Anything related to talismans in this world has become an interesting topic, but what could they do in such a field? Robin shook his head. I won't talk more about it until you are formally accepted. There is a condition you must fulfill in order to start working with us. That elder got rid of his first fear after what Mila did to him and asked, What conditions? No one told us anything before we came here. They told us they only wanted people with strong souls. But after he finished speaking, he looked out of the corner of his eye in fear at Mila to see if he had angered her in some way. Right, what conditions? I've been here for 10 months and already receiving a wage. If I refuse that condition, will I give back what I took? This bullshit. Please calm down, what you took will stay with you. This is a new condition that must be fulfilled. Whoever does not agree can only leave and no one will stop him or take anything from him. Robin stated. When he saw that everyone was reassured, he completed his words. The talisman maker sent us these tablets. Then he took out 3 soul tablets that were next to his feet and put them on the table in front of him. Then continued, whoever passes his spiritual sense inside them and swears by something, that thing must be implemented and otherwise, the consequences will be dire. And I need you to swear upon a few things on the tablets first before you are formally accepted. We swear on a plate? Ha ha ha. Come on guys. This is enough. You are killing me here. Is this the clown show before the patriarch arrives? Ha ha ha. You got me there, I have to add me, arg. Someone between the candidates started laughing out loud. But his laugh didn't finish. He was interrupted by an energy punch from Mila that crushed his lower jaw and left him bloodied on the ground, unconscious. Everyone knows that he was the one who asked for this, so there was no reaction towards him, but everyone started looking at each other with ridiculous looks, and some of them started smiling and trying to stifle their laughter. If this announcement is not amusing, what is? Robin gave a big smile and continued his words. I am glad that my little announcement put a smile on your faces. We may be friends and colleagues soon, and this beautiful spirit will be a good addition to us. At the stage, his smile turned to a serious face as he continued. But I'm afraid I will still insist on the topic of swearing the oath. Today who repeat the oath that I will tell you, will stay here and work with us, and whoever refuses can kindly leave. There is no third option.